not find, we discovered today, any evidence of DNA in the basement or anything that shows that Sade Robinson was in fact murdered and was in fact dismembered at that location. So how was she killed? We still don't know. And Tony Cotton brings up, why was she killed? Another thing the state has not mentioned. Now you see here is a photo of Maxwell Anderson, clean shaven, looking a little bit different from the photos we have seen all throughout the last year. Surveillance photos, his booking photo when he was charged. Some have said that of course, and it's not uncommon for defendants to be cleaned up for trial, but it may also be an effort to give the jury a different look, someone who doesn't quite look like some of the images that they're going to see throughout this trial, things that showed up on surveillance that police say they're going to be presenting, or prosecutors say they'll be presenting over the next couple of weeks. But again, that defense theory really is about the absence of certain evidence that you might expect. DNA evidence, a murder weapon, where this took place, if in fact there was a dismemberment, what tools were used. Is there any evidence that would tie tools like that to Maxwell Anderson? There were some bloody gloves that were found near where the leg was discovered along Lake Michigan. No DNA from those gloves comes back to Maxwell Anderson, according to what the defense said in opening statements. So really this is a case of circumstantial evidence, and the defense saying the state has to meet its burden of proof. The defense has not offered any alternative theory here. Who else might have done it? Why might they have done it? But as Tony Cotton pointed out, they don't have to. It is the burden on the state to prove that it was Maxwell Anderson, and that is what the state is going to be laboring to do in excruciating detail over the next couple of weeks as they present potentially hundreds of witnesses. There are more than 200 witnesses that are listed on the state's witness list. As I said, we've already heard from a half dozen of those today, and I'll talk to you a little bit about who some of those witnesses are. Osiris Terrell. This really all begins for us, the public, with the discovery of that leg in Warnermount Park. Osiris Terrell and his friend Evan were walking the beach there. It's not an easily accessible area, but apparently he and his friend have gone there quite a number of times over the years. And he says on this particular day, April 1st of 2024, it was miserable. The weather was bad. It was raining. The waves were crashing hard. They were walking through this area and spotted what they at first thought was a mannequin leg, something from not a non-human body. They realized as they got closer this was in fact a human leg. You could hear from Osiris Terrell in his testimony that he is still trying to process what they discovered that day, but they immediately called 911, and that's what got police involved for the first time. Cudahy police officer Zachary DeSmet was the next witness who was called. He was called to respond to this human leg that was discovered in the park. As he arrived, he witnessed what had previously been reported by someone else we'll talk about in a moment, and that is a gate to the pump house that was for the Cudahy Water Department that was damaged. That gate had been smashed through by a vehicle, so as he arrived to come down and look at this leg that's been discovered, he sees someone has smashed the gate. The third witness was Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office Deputy Leon Martin. And he is the first one who talked about when he was called to the scene and looked at the leg. What stood out to him were the pink painted toenails that would certainly come into play later as investigators were determining who that leg belonged to. And they say those pink toenails were part, later of course DNA added to this, what tied that leg to Sade Robinson. A fourth witness was Milwaukee County Sheriff's Detective Joanne Donner. She again talked about the miserable conditions that day along the lake, the waves, but she did say it appeared the leg had not been there long. There was no evidence of decomposition. It looked like it had not been there for a particularly significant period of time. She also talked about where the leg had been, and I'll forewarn you, this is a graphic case, and we're going to be talking about some really graphic stuff over the next couple of weeks. She talked about where the leg had been broken off, that it appeared it had been scored with a tool and then snapped. And again, if some of this is hard to listen to, I understand. I want to forewarn you, there are going to be times that that's what the evidence is going to talk about, and it will be significant to whether or not the jury finds Maxwell Anderson guilty or not guilty. In addition to the leg, they did find some clothing nearby, a t-shirt and a bra that were heavily soaked from the rain. Then finally, the last witness that we've heard from before the court took a break just a short time ago was Francis Miller, who was a water utility superintendent in Cudahy, and or was at the time in any case. He was the one who first was told about this gate having been rammed overnight. He went to see that. He reported that. And again, as the state paints the picture of what happened here, the ramming of that gate is significant because they say pieces of a vehicle were left behind that belonged to a blue 2020 Honda Civic. And they say they believe that those pieces were specifically part of Sade Robinson's car, and that they believe Maxwell Anderson was driving her around, whether she was alive or dead at that point, driving her around in her own car, and as the prosecutor put it, attempting to make her disappear from this world by dumping her body parts into the lake. The prosecution in its opening statement said that Maxwell Anderson then drove that car from Warnemount Park in Cudahy around the city of Milwaukee and ultimately set it on fire, they believe, around 30th and Galena on the north side of Milwaukee in an attempt to further cover up the evidence of the crime they say he committed. The defense says that what happened at that location is going to be crucial, what happened and whether or not the state can prove it was Maxwell Anderson who set that car on fire will be just one more point that is critical to this case. We're going to take a break, and in just a little bit we're going to be joined by a Fox 6 reporter.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And we are back here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. I am Fox 6's Brian Polson. And we have, I'm not sure if he's quite ready yet. I know we've got Aaron Mabin, who's down at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. And I know he's been watching this first day of testimony in the Maxwell Anderson trial. If we have Aaron ready to go, Aaron, I'm going to pull you up right here. And you can give us some idea of what you've been seeing so far today. What has stood out to you between opening statements and the first handful of witnesses?
And Brian, I thought you did a great job really walking us through what the morning has looked like. Basically, what opening statements right off the bat, you could tell that the prosecutors wanted the jury to know who exactly Sade Robinson was. So they talked about what she did for a living. They talked about who she was. And then they went into talking about what happened to her. So they did a good summary of who she was and then a timeline of April 1st April 2nd, all the way to April 18th of 2024 until where we are today. So they gave us a timeline and a summary. And as you mentioned, Brian, the defense, they're doing a pushback. They're saying, yes, we're not going to really push back that Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson went on a date. They knew each other. They texted. She went back to his home. Yes, that happened. But Brian, what the defense, is really making clear right now is there's no DNA evidence, and what exactly happened cannot be proven. What the defense is saying right now, or what the state is saying right now, cannot be proven. This is a day of first. I know we're in the second day of trial, but this is a day of first. Here's my notes right now. This is the first time we knew that surveillance video across the street captured a silhouette of what the prosecutors are saying was Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson and Maxwell Anderson's home. We never really knew that there was that Ring doorbell camera that was able to shoot across the street, showing a silhouette of what the state is saying was that couple. We never knew that there was a neighbor who was also inside of that home, and he's going to be coming on the stand eventually. As we talk about hundreds of witnesses, we're going to hear from someone who is inside of Maxwell Anderson's home. I talked to Bill Miston earlier. We knew that this was a home that had multiple levels, that someone lived there too, but we didn't know that someone was there at this exact same time. And this is going to be, I think, a critical witness, Brian, because he was a very light sleeper, according to the defense. And the defense is saying that he didn't hear anything that night. You know, no signs of struggle, no banging around the house, no chainsaws, no sawing, anything like that, that the prosecutors are kind of alluding to. What really stood out when the defense brought this person up is that he used to complain about Maxwell Anderson's dogs chewing on a bone. He was a very light sleeper, but he heard nothing. April 1st going into April 2nd. Another first was the first time we saw body camera video in the shore of Warnemont Park, right by the lake shore. We have always heard about these two men who are walking on the beach, and they have never revealed who they were. We have never seen that police body camera video until today. This is the first time. I want to show it for you. We're going to play it out. We have it here for you. You're going to see Milwaukee County Sheriff Deputy Leon Martin, and then two of the men who found the body, the severed leg of Sade Robinson. Let's watch this together. I'm going to get close so my mic can pick it up. We'll stop it. Brian, you'll have questions for me, maybe related to this, maybe related to something else, and we'll go through it together. So again, this is April 2nd, 2024. This is after two men were walking on a beach and they found a severed leg. They called 911, and now you're going to see the body camera footage from Milwaukee County Sheriff's Deputy Leon Martin.
I'm going to play it until 4:10. And there's no audio right now. When does the audio pick up?
Approximately 30 seconds.
Is that because that's how your body cameras work?
Correct. When you activate your body cam, it plays 30 seconds before you actually activate it.
Thank you.
That's Deputy Leon Martin that you're seeing on the stand earlier today, looking at his body camera video from April 2nd, 2024. The audio is just picking up, and you can start to see in the middle of the screen two young people, actually one young person and a police officer.
Yeah. I just cleaned my boots too, dude. Fuck, man.
Yeah, bye. I have that on call sheet. I'm trying to figure out what to do.
We've dealt with him before sometimes he's mostly a good guy. He's gotten into this trouble a couple times, but good dude.
Okay.
So they walked down the S curve from Sheridan, started walking south just for fun, you know, rough day on the beach. As they're walking, see that leg right there?
Yeah.
Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branch is.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes. Said that they saw it up
So it's
there.
like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll stop it there. That is Evan Millies right there. He's walking on the beach. And Brian, you mentioned earlier with his friend Osiris who took the stand, the first person who took the stand. You can see that there's a gray, gloomy day. It's rainy outside. They were walking on the beach together, Warnermont Park, and they spotted this severed leg. And that's when this entire situation became what it is today. They brought in law enforcement. And it was shortly after that law enforcement also got calls that Sade Robinson was missing.
Aaron, is there any explanation, first of all, just of what these guys are doing down there? It's such a miserable day. You almost think if you were someone who was trying to dispose of a body so that it wouldn't be found, that wouldn't be a bad place to do it. And yet here these guys come through on this really super rainy day, this secluded area, and just happen to come over. Did they say what they were even doing there in the first place?
You know, it seems like they were just going on a walk and exploring. We don't know their exact reasoning for being down there because, yeah, it's rainy, it's cold outside, so why they would be there isn't fully clear. I do think it's been made clear from a detective who was with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office who testified later that a lot of young people do go down there. In her testimony, she said that she notices that there could be bonfires that happen down there, possibly underage drinking situations that happen down there too. They did not explain why they were down there, but you can kind of get a sense that it is secluded. It's hard to get down there, so young people do go there and explore and maybe do things, at all different times of the day.
In many ways, we're hearing them talk about things we already knew, like they've got to establish that the leg was found, who found it, what's the chain of custody, and all that sort of thing. But you mentioned we've got a lot coming up over the next couple of weeks that really is going to lay out what the state believe ties Maxwell Anderson to this. But I think, as you mentioned, what really stands out is that lack of the smoking gun. And that, I'm sure, makes this a more difficult case. It might seem like there's an overwhelming amount of evidence, but it's all circumstantial. It's digital. It ties him to locations potentially. And we heard the defense attorney, Tony Cotton, say, we don't dispute a lot of that. We agree they went out to the bar. We agree they went back to his place. We're not going to argue that whole point. But we're saying there's nothing that proves he killed her. And in fact, why or how? And I think that's something we've all been wondering, isn't it? Is why would he do it? And then how did he do it? Did he shoot her? Did he stab her? Did someone kill her in some other way before she was dismembered? Those are all things we still don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to pull up actually, this is the last part of the opening statement. I want to read this to you because this is what Tony Cotton sent out, and it really stood out. He said, Max had nothing to do with these crimes. In the law, it says that there's not enough for him to look guilty or maybe be guilty, or there's a few bad things that look bad. They have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you as jurors start to go into the jury room and examine these pieces of evidence that are coming up, you will be confronted with nothing but reasonable doubt, and your duty is to return a not guilty verdict. That comes after the prosecutor, Ian Vance Curzan, the lead prosecutor, said that, yeah, we're going to see a lot of digital evidence. We're going to see the pictures from Milwaukee County buses, surveillance video, cell phone video of things. But what Tony Cotton is saying is, yes, there is this digital trail. There's this GPS, but you're not going to have that DNA evidence, that hard DNA evidence, and you're not going to have a reason why, what was used, and where it happened. And that is going to be the battle that we're going to see playing out for the next couple of days, Brian, that were already laid out in the opening statements too. And I do want to talk about what I saw inside of the courtroom during these opening statements and during this really gruesome testimony, because we have Maxwell Anderson's family, who's right behind him. He's very stoic. They're very stoic throughout all of this. But then on the other side, we have the prosecutors, and then behind them, we have Sade Robinson's mother, and we also have Sade Robinson's father, along with other family members. When that severed leg was shown, the father was not in the courtroom. Mother was in the courtroom. She had to look down. She had to look away from everything. It's important to note, though, that the jury was looking at the screen. They saw what I just showed you. They saw the severed leg, and I could see them intently watching and really not looking down at all. They're looking at Maxwell Anderson. They're looking at the prosecutor, the lead prosecutor. They're also looking at the screen too. There were tears in the courtroom though when they did go through the opening statement and they laid out what the timeline was, and they got into those really gruesome, gritty details of her being dismembered and severed and her body thrown all over the city. That is when we heard father taking a gasp, wiping his face, and then leaning down and crying during those opening statements. So there's already emotion inside of the courtroom as a lot of the facts are being laid out right now.
You know, for those who are watching this who don't go to major trials like this and sit in the courtroom, can you talk a little bit about sort of what it looks like in there? You mentioned that there's family members on sort of each side of the gallery. There's a lot of media there as well. In fact, so much media, some are inside the courtroom, some are out in the hallway, some are in entirely different rooms in the courthouse altogether, but there's a lot of attention on this one case.
So I want to start with the jury. Let's start with the jury first. Typically we have 12 jurors, maybe 1 or 2 alternates. Today we have 15 jurors. 3 of them will eventually become alternates. So that means there's not enough seating for them. So there's going to be a top row, a middle row, and a front row. They're all filled, and they do have some extra seats right now. So they've pulled in some extra seats so the jury can be filled. And some of them are sitting on some comfortable chairs. The other ones may have some less comfortable chairs. It's also very cold in the courtroom. So the jury, they're wearing like these light parka coats, literally these puffer jackets. One woman has like a shawl around her right now to stay warm during this testimony because it is cold in the courtroom. As we go into the gallery behind the prosecutors, excuse me, right now, there are 2 rows of Sade Robinson's family and friends. Then there are 2 rows, and those are filled. And then there are 2 rows of just community members, people who are invested in this case, and former co-workers of Sade Robinson. Then we have 2 rows of media, Fox 6, some other media, print, and local television stations are filling out those back rows.
Have you noticed?
Let's go to the other side.
I'm just going to say, before
Yep.
you go to the other side, are there people, I mean, are people showing up early in the morning to line up and be the community members that can get in the room?
You know, we're here at 8 o'clock in the morning. So are the community members. Things don't kick off until 8:45. When we walked in, maybe a little after 8 o'clock, people were already sitting in the hallway to get inside. So those are community members and then also students, because we have a class with Homestead High School, a senior class. They're taking up about 4 rows behind Maxwell Anderson's, behind the defense there. So they were also in the hallway too, and then Maxwell Anderson's family were also there before 8:45 this morning.
So you were telling us about one side of the gallery, and then you were about to move to the other. What do you see on the other side?
Yeah. That other side is going to be Maxwell Anderson, clean shaven right now, wearing a plaid shirt, khakis once again. He wore khakis yesterday. He has Tony Cotton and his other attorney on both of his sides. Then we go behind him. Behind the glass, there's going to be Maxwell Anderson's father, mother, another woman, and an older man. The first time seeing this older man, possibly a grandfather, maybe an uncle here, and then a woman is with him too. We go back a row, there's no one there, and then we go back another row. These are community members who are here because Sade Robinson's side is pretty full. Community members have gone onto the side of Maxwell Anderson, and then some other rows are going to be those Homestead High School students. And then we have also attorneys who are here, attorneys who I recognize with the district attorney's office. They're also here. I don't think they're affiliated with the case. Maybe they're interested, maybe they're taking notes. I haven't really been able to pinpoint why they're here, but it's a good size courtroom, and there's a good showing of people there right now too, Brian.
We're going to take a break in a moment, but I want to ask you, one thing I didn't hear in the state's opening statement, and I don't know if you know, at some point throughout the past year, there was a search warrant affidavit that surfaced that indicated there had been a confidential informant who had come forward and said that person was in Maxwell Anderson's basement, and that Maxwell Anderson told this informant about his plan to murder Sade Robinson specifically, and that this person saw saws in the basement, plastic tarps, and all sorts of things. They paint a picture of what we might imagine it would look like in a place where someone's body parts were going to be dismembered. And apparently this confidential informant never told anyone until after all of this happened. That's all detailed in this report, but we didn't hear the state talk about any of that in opening statements. Is there any indication whether that's going to happen? Has it been determined that wasn't a credible witness? Do we know anything more about that? Or have you heard anybody talking about the fact that that was absent from opening statements?
You know, it's a conversation that I had with colleagues this morning, because I think that's someone who we really want to know more about. We have this long list of more than 200 witnesses, but we don't have a name, a confirmed name of who that informant was. I think attorneys have not mentioned it in open court. Family members have not mentioned it to us in passing either, but it's something that a lot of people, I can tell you, Brian, who are inside the courtroom right now are curious to see if this confidential informant will be brought to the stand, will be mentioned, because that's certainly going to open the door to a lot of testimony and a lot of questions that the state and the defense are going to want to hear from this confidential informant. So don't have that clear answer right now if that person will be taking the stand, but we certainly want to know that.
Aaron, I know you're going to be at the courthouse a lot for the next couple of weeks. Do you have sort of a vision for, what does your day look like? What is it like when you cover a trial of this magnitude?
You know, it's a lot of looking around. So I always look at what people are wearing, how they're reacting to things, what emotions in the courtroom, because I want to make sure I give that to viewers. So we have these copious amount of notes that are being taken, but I always make sure to look up. How's the jury reacting to things? What are they looking at when these critical moments are happening? How are they digesting the gruesome details that are being shown in court? And I make sure to write that down, because we're hearing what the defense, what the prosecutors are laying out in court, but I also want to make sure what they're not seeing, what the video camera's not capturing, I'm writing that down and reporting that too. So our day is going to start at 8 in the morning. Things kick off at 8:45, and tons of note taking is happening throughout the morning. And during those breaks, I continue to go over those notes and maybe highlight the big moments of the day. And it's really difficult to map out, Brian, what things are going to look like, how they're going to play out. But right now, they're really sticking to that timeline of that first phone call, who saw what, and they're bringing people in one by one. The state is doing this, and they're going to do this timeline. So I think we know the way that this is going to play out, but it's just making sure that we're filling in those moments and those holes and those questions that are happening throughout this trial.
There's an extraordinary number of crime scenes, effectively, when you think of all the different places they've gone, where body parts have been found, where the car was burned, where they were out together having drinks. So there's a lot to be detailed, and it's going to take a long time. We know you're going to be with us throughout this coverage of the Maxwell Anderson trial. So Aaron Maven, thank you. You're at the courthouse now, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you much more over the next couple of weeks. So we are going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about the jury pool. Aaron mentioned there are 15 jurors, an unusually large number. There will ultimately be 12 and 3 alternates. None of them know which ones will be the alternates. That'll be decided at the end of testimony, and we will talk more about all of that after we take this break, and we come right back to Wisconsin Live.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I am Fox 6's Brian Polson. On day 2 of the Maxwell Anderson trial, we are going to be here with you all afternoon for the next couple of weeks from 12:30 to 4 p.m., bringing you the latest from the Anderson trial in the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. This is day 2 of the trial, but day 1 of testimony. We heard opening statements this morning. We have so far heard from, I believe it's 5 witnesses, and there will be many more to come. We're not going to hear from all of the witnesses on the state's witness list, but they have listed more than 200 and something potential witnesses to be heard from over the next couple of weeks. This will be a long and methodical trial, but the content, what this is all about, is something unlike just about any other case we've seen in Wisconsin. For those of you who are just joining us now, I want to talk a little bit about what we've learned so far today. Now, first of all, opening statements. That began right off the bat this morning with the prosecutor, Ian Vance Curzan, presenting essentially a timeline of everything that happened here. And he laid out a detailed procedure of what they believe occurred the night that Sade Robinson was killed. And it all started with that date at the Twisted Fisherman. And cell phone pings and Life 360 helped them detail much of the rest of the night. That and surveillance videos from all over Milwaukee County. As they traced the pair, Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson, they say, from Twisted Fisherman to Duke's on Water, where they stayed for a couple of hours. From there to Maxwell Anderson's house on the south side of Milwaukee. They stayed there for several hours. They actually, for the first time today, the prosecutor revealed there's surveillance video from across the street of Maxwell Anderson's home showing what they say were silhouettes of individuals moving inside that home, consistent with the cell phone pings of Sade Robinson's phone for over the course of 2 or 3 hours, and then those silhouettes stopping shortly before Sade Robinson's vehicle, they say, left that residence. Her vehicle, a 2020 blue Honda Civic. Now, from there, they said those cell phone pings led down toward Warnemount Park, where ultimately Sade Robinson's leg was discovered. And we have some photos of a gate this has been shown to the jury, a gate that was crashed. If you look down at the end of this drive, this is a service road, and that's the gate itself. Prosecutors say a vehicle busted through this gate on its way down to the water department's pump house, which is right down at beach level, down at ground level. So this service road is an easy access point to get down to the lake instead of having to go down a cliff. There's a large drop-off of land down to the water. And prosecutors are saying they believe Maxwell Anderson, in Sade Robinson's car, busted through this gate, went down to the lakefront, and disposed of her body parts at the lakefront. There are pieces of the vehicle that were left behind, they say, at that broken gate, and that piece right there, you notice that kind of C shape? That is one of the taillights on, they say, a 2020 Honda Civic. They say it is specific to that vehicle or that vehicle type, and they say it will help tie this piece right here to Sade Robinson's car, which was the blue 2020 Honda Civic. So those are some of the pieces of evidence prosecutors are presenting. They say from after leaving Warnemount Park in Sade Robinson's car, they believe that videos throughout the city, the prosecution says videos throughout the city show Maxwell Anderson then driving throughout the city of Milwaukee and ultimately parking somewhere in the vicinity of 30th and Galena, where ultimately the vehicle is burned. And there are witnesses on another surveillance video who are walking past where the vehicle is on fire. And according to prosecutors, these witnesses saw the person set the fire and then said something that can be audibly heard on this audio recorder or this video recording, that he's the guy who did it. And they see a white male that prosecutors later say matches Maxwell Anderson leaving the scene. That is the fire. We're talking about the vehicle fire that was taking place out of sight of surveillance cameras. This is obviously after first responders had arrived. So there is no video of Maxwell Anderson setting that fire, prosecutors say, but they believe there's enough video evidence and digital trails to prove that it was him. So they've done all of this to paint that picture. But today's the first time we heard the other side. We heard from the defense. And Tony Cotton, who represents Maxwell Anderson, high-profile criminal defense attorney, represented Morgan Geyser in the Slender Man case, very high-profile case. He said today that the state is missing some really crucial pieces, and as he put it, there is a mountain of reasonable doubt. Mr. Cotton pointed specifically to the fact that, number one, there is no murder weapon. None has been found. In fact, prosecutors have not even laid out a theory of how Sade Robinson was killed, what weapon was used. Where did that occur? Did it occur at Maxwell Anderson's home? And if so, why isn't there DNA evidence, all sorts of blood and other things showing that it happened there? That's what Tony Cotton raised in his opening statement. He also says that there is not DNA evidence that directly links Maxwell Anderson to any particular evidence that proves he is the one who committed this crime. They also, he says, haven't given a reason why. What's the motive? They were on a first date, seemed to be having a good time. What was his motive for doing this? They say the prosecution hasn't yet laid that out. And ultimately, the defense said they don't have to come up with an alternative theory. It's not their job to prove Maxwell Anderson didn't do it. It's the state's burden to prove that he did. And Mr. Cotton told the jury that he believes there are a lot of holes in the state's case that he's going to be attempting to poke over the next couple of weeks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are 15 jurors that have been set for this case. 12 ultimately will decide the fate of Maxwell Anderson. 3 will be alternates. But we don't know who's an alternate and who's a regular juror, and that is on purpose. That's intentional, so that the jurors who are listening are all paying attention with full intent to be ultimately on that final panel. The 3 alternates, because of the length of the trial, allows for an illness or some sort of other incident that may cause a juror to be dismissed. You don't have to retry the entire case. So they've got a buffer of 3 potential alternate jurors. Of the 15, we know that 12 are women, 3 are men, 9 are married, 10 have kids. There are 12 white, 2 black, and 1 Asian individuals, at least as best our reporters could tell from just mere observation. We know that 4 of the jurors are from Oak Creek, 3 from Milwaukee, 2 Greenfield, and 1 each from Hales Corners, South Milwaukee, St. Francis, Cudahy, I'm sorry, not Cudahy, Hales Corners, South Milwaukee, St. Francis, Wauwatosa, West Allis, and Whitefish Bay. They have jobs that range from a nurse practitioner to a registered nurse, social worker, auto mechanic. There's a massage therapist, a mail clerk, 1 retired TV ad salesperson, a graphic designer, a data analyst, a marketing executive, an IT project manager, someone who does commercial snow removal, and a production manager. Those are the people who will ultimately listen to the evidence and determine if Maxwell Anderson is innocent or guilty. Now, because today's the first day of evidence, we had the opening statements and now testimony, and here we are at 1:12 p.m. There's only been a couple of hours worth of actual testimony, but 5 witnesses already have testified. The first was Osiris Terrell. Now, Mr. Terrell, he and a friend, you saw that video if you were here just a moment ago when Aaron Maben was showing us that video. That is actually a man named Evan, and his last name escapes me, it's not in front of me, but it is Evan Millies, I believe. Evan Millies, and then there's Osiris Terrell. These 2 were walking the shoreline along Warnemount Park, along Lake Michigan and Warnemount Park on April 1st of 2024. It was a rainy day, a windy day. The waves were big and crashing. It was kind of miserable, muddy, but it's an area they've gone to many times. And they said that as they were walking along, they found this human leg along the bluff. You see him pointing to where that leg had been spotted. They called 911 right away, and the first officer to respond was Cudahy police officer Zachary DeSmet. He arrived, and when he got there, he used that access road we showed you gets down to the pump house to go down and talk to these witnesses and observe this human leg. So, of course, as he arrives, he sees that gate that's been smashed through. He talked about that when he testified today. The state also called Deputy Leon Martin of the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. He talked about, and that we saw his body camera video down along the lakefront as we see the first approach. That may have been the Cudahy police officer. I believe though it was the sheriff's body camera video. But he remarked about what stood out about that human leg was the pink painted toenails. We ultimately know that that was part of what helped law enforcement link that leg to Sade Robinson, who was actually reported missing later that same night. She had not yet been reported missing when the leg was discovered. She was reported missing later that night, and they were able to tie the two together, both because of the pink painted toenails and also because of the ultimate size of the leg, which the deputy said seemed to be someone who was fairly short, and ultimately Sade Robinson was someone who was not a particularly tall individual, and they said there was enough about that they believed it was from her body. Ultimately, DNA evidence or DNA testing at the state crime lab would prove it was, in fact, Sade Robinson's leg, but early on they already had that heavy suspicion. Fourth today, we heard from Milwaukee County Sheriff's Deputy or Detective Joanne Donner. And Joanne Donner also described the miserable conditions along the Lake Michigan shoreline. But she said when she observed the leg, one thing that was clear to her is it had not been there for very long. There was no sign of decomposition. She did say the waves were crashing hard enough that I believe the leg had to be moved so that it didn't go back into the lake, if that, in fact, that is where it had washed up from in the first place. She did also talk a little bit about, and I'm going to forewarn you again, for those who are listening, this is a graphic trial. There's a lot of really disturbing testimony, and what I'm going to say here in a moment is something that if you don't want to hear this part, you might want to just maybe close your eyes, or close your ears, I should say, for 30 seconds. But it's going to be one of many things we talk about in the next couple of weeks. She said the leg, when she looked at where it had been removed from the body, that it looked like a tool had been used to score the bone and then ultimately snapped. And so she described sort of the manner in which the leg looks like it had been detached from a human body. They did also find, in searching the area, no other body parts that day in the area of Warnemount Park, but they did find a t-shirt and a bra that were soaking wet because of all of the rain. Finally, we heard today from Francis Miller, a water utility superintendent in Cudahy. He is the first person who was told about the gate having been rammed, and then he observed it and reported that to police. And again, that gate is significant not only because it's the access point to get down to the water. You see a picture of that gate having been smashed there, but because of the piece of evidence that was found right nearby, and that is the C-shaped tail light. You see it there, that prosecutors say comes from a 2020 blue Honda Civic, and they say that they will have expert testimony coming up at some point in this trial that directly ties that piece to Sade Robinson's vehicle, which was a 2020 blue Honda Civic. Excuse me, that's the one that prosecutors say they believe Maxwell Anderson was driving throughout that night, even after he had attempted to dispose of Sade Robinson's body. That he drove it through the city of Milwaukee. They say he then set it on fire near 30th and Galena, and that he then got on a Milwaukee County Transit bus with a large backpack stuffed full and a hoodie that they would later also find. That's going to be something we're going to hear more about, is the gray hoodie that he was wearing. And I believe we may be hearing a little bit about DNA evidence associated with that hoodie. So there's a lot to go through over the next couple of weeks, and the defense is going to be saying all along that this may look bad for Maxwell Anderson, but is it proof beyond a reasonable doubt? That's really the case the defense is making here. No matter how bad it looks, can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this man did this terrible thing to Sade Robinson? We are going to take another break. The court should be coming back in about 10 minutes. We're keeping an eye on that. When we know that the court is resuming, we're going to take you right back to live testimony, the Maxwell Anderson trial. But we'll talk a little bit about what we've seen so far and what we expect will be coming this afternoon when we come back after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And I'm Fox 6's Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk on day 2 of the Maxwell Anderson trial. He is charged in the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson on April 1st and 2nd of 2024. It's been a little more than a year that we've been waiting for this day, and it is going to be a long couple of weeks as the prosecution has a detailed case to lay out. We've been talking about it throughout this lunch break. I want to talk a little bit about what to expect here this afternoon. So every day at 12:30, we're going to be giving you a recap of what's happened in the morning session, and then we're going to dip into live testimony when the court resumes. So anytime they're on a break, we're going to give you a summation of what we know and what to expect, and then we're going to be going back to live testimony at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. If you want to watch the uninterrupted feed of the trial, if you don't want any of this analysis, you just want to watch it clean and go away, you can watch that on our Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel. That is going to be there morning and afternoon every day of this trial. Heretofore, it's expected to go a minimum of 10 trial days, so 2 weeks, and possibly more, depending on how things play out. There may be some repetition as I tell you, but for those of you who are cycling, those of you who are joining us, I want to kind of let you know a little bit about what we have learned so far today. And the biggest thing is that yesterday was jury selection. Today, the first opening statements and testimony. Opening statements from both the prosecution and defense at the beginning of the day today, followed by 5 witnesses who have testified so far. And we're very early, if you really think about the whole timeline of this and all the locations this went. I'm going to recap that for you here briefly for a minute. But based on the prosecution's case, what we know is, or what they are alleging occurred, is that Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson went out on a date. They went to Twisted Fisherman, that is along Canal Street in Milwaukee. They had some food, they had some drinks, they left. They went from there to Duke's on Water, another bar in Milwaukee along Water Street, and stayed there for a couple of hours. Now remember, Sade Robinson's 19 years old. Shouldn't even be in a bar getting served drinks, but we know that she was. That's a whole separate issue that's actually going to be at issue in a civil case that the estate of Sade Robinson has filed against some of the places that served her alcohol that night. But that's really not a big part of this criminal case. They go to Duke's on Water, they're there for a couple of hours, and prosecutors say, according to digital phone pings, Life 360, things like that, they're able to trace their movements from the bar to Maxwell Anderson's house on the south side of Milwaukee. And they say video surveillance along the way matches with the cell phone pings. They then see that there are shadowy figures or sort of silhouettes moving inside the home, inside Maxwell Anderson's home, at the same time that the cell phone pings show that's where Sade Robinson's phone is. So the suggestion there is that Sade and Maxwell are at the house, and they're there for a couple of hours, and there's movement. They don't see any movement. They don't describe anything anyway that seems to indicate something violent is happening, but they see that there are people present. And about the same time that Sade Robinson's phone starts moving again, the silhouettes stop. So shortly after the silhouettes stop, the vehicle is moving again, and it is a 2020 blue Honda Civic that's matching the cell phone pings, they say, of Sade Robinson's phone. From there, that phone travels down to Cudahy along the Lake Michigan shoreline, and in that area it stays for a while. We see, according to the screenshots we've shown you of the gate that was smashed along the way to Warnemont Park, or to the pump house, I should say, in Warnemont Park. That smashed gate, there you go, you can see it now. That is where they say the Honda Civic accessed the shoreline of Lake Michigan. And they believe, prosecutors say, that is where Maxwell Anderson dumped the body parts of Sade Robinson into Lake Michigan. They say the cell phone pings eventually die in this vicinity, but the vehicle is then seen throughout the city of Milwaukee on surveillance cameras. And at that location where that fence line is, we've shown you this a couple of times. I'm gonna ask if we can see it again, but there is a piece of a vehicle that's left behind. It's a tail light. That C shape, prosecutors say, is important because it is the signature shape of a taillight that belongs to this 2020 Honda Civic. They say that will be crucial evidence later in the case. That vehicle is then seen, Sade's vehicle, prosecutors say, throughout the city of Milwaukee. And ultimately, someone ends up lighting it on fire on the north side of Milwaukee around 30th and Galena. That is after first responders have arrived at that car fire. We know that there are witnesses who say they saw a man matching Maxwell Anderson's description. They believe they saw him set this fire and then leave the scene. There is surveillance video of these witnesses, at least, saying he did it. That's the guy who did it, as someone who prosecutors say matches Maxwell Anderson's description walks away from that scene. They also say there is then surveillance video of him on a Milwaukee County Transit bus in that vicinity after the car fire. So they're painting this picture of these movements from the bars to Maxwell Anderson's place down to the lakefront where the body part is ultimately found, the first body part is found, and then back up to where the car fire is found. There was another body part, I believe it was actually a human foot, that was found near where the car fire occurred. They walk us through all of that, but the defense had a chance to talk today too. And the defense says it's all circumstantial. None of it proves Maxwell Anderson did anything. They don't have a murder weapon. They don't have DNA evidence that says he's attached to any of these specific things. There's no DNA of Sade all over the basement of Maxwell Anderson's house like you might expect if that's where such a violent thing took place as the dismemberment of a human body. So in spite of investigators combing through that basement for evidence, the defense today said in opening statements they didn't come up with anything that proves this gruesome crime occurred there. And if it didn't occur there, then where did it happen? There doesn't appear to be any evidence at the lakefront that there was blood all over the place where maybe something like this might have taken place. So there's some real questions about how this happened. We still don't know, and it's starting to seem like we may not know by the end of this trial how Sade Robinson was killed. Was she shot? Was she stabbed? Was she strangled? Did something else happen? It doesn't appear, based on opening statements, that anyone plans to present evidence that indicates how she was killed. We do know that she was ultimately dismembered and her body parts have shown up in all these multiple places. The state wants to convince the jury it was Maxwell Anderson who did all of that, but again, with what tools? And where are those tools? And have any of those tools been in any way tied to Maxwell Anderson? The defense also pointed out today in opening statements there's no internet search history of Maxwell Anderson, for instance, looking up how to dispose of a body, how to dismember a body, anything like that you may often find in a case like this for someone with no history or experience with this kind of a gruesome crime. He did not delete his text messages with Sade Robinson, they say. So if it's a matter of deleting evidence, they seem to be suggesting that any kind of search history, if he didn't delete that, maybe he wouldn't have deleted the other. It's not really clear what that suggestion was, but one thing is clear. There's nothing, they say, that the defense says specifically ties Maxwell Anderson to a manner of death or to any weapon or tool that was used to kill her or to dismember her body. So the state's burden is going to be a tall one, and that's why we're probably expected to hear very detailed testimony of the other evidence that does link Maxwell Anderson to the state's theory of what happened here, and that is going to be heavily reliant upon digital evidence, cell phone pings, videos, surveillance videos and photographs, things like that. The piece of the vehicle, prosecutors have said, is a critical piece of evidence in this case, and whether or not the jury buys that that is in fact from Sade Robinson's car could go a long way toward determining the ultimate outcome in this case. So much more to come on this one. We expect in about 15 minutes that the court is going to come back into session and have more evidence this afternoon. I wish I could tell you who that was going to be, but I'm going to show you right here. This is a list of witnesses the state has prepared to call in this case. And as you can see, this goes on for pages and pages and pages, and it's hard to say who they will and won't call. One other major high-profile case we've had here in Wisconsin in recent years, the Darrell Brooks case, the Waukesha parade tragedy, similar thing where there were hundreds of witnesses listed. Ultimately, I believe the state called somewhere around 40 or 50, if I recall in that case, might have been a few more than that. So I don't think we're going to necessarily see 250 witnesses take the stand, but there might be more than we saw in the Waukesha parade case because so much of this is going to be expert testimony talking about these videos and what they mean, or maybe we might get down to pixel level on some of these things and determining, is that the same thing you see here versus what the prosecution is saying you see there. It's going to be a very detailed case in that way. Some of this evidence is going to be really dramatic and alarming and appalling stuff. And I'll tell you, some of it's going to be mind-numbingly boring because scientific, expert, digital type testimony can sometimes really get down into minutia. It matters from a legal standpoint, it matters from proving a case, but some of that won't be so terribly exciting. We're going to help you break down what some of that stuff means and why it's crucial and important to the case. And throughout the week, we're going to be joined by experts like Julius Kim from the law firm of Kim and Lavoie. He was on Fox 6's Open Record this week talking about what to expect in this case and viewing it from the lens of a criminal defense attorney. He said some of the things we heard in opening statements, that it's a circumstantial case and they're going to really try hard to put the state to its burden of proof. But he's going to be joining us with some analysis throughout the week, telling us what to expect. He's also going to be in our late newscasts, Fox 6 News at 9 and 10, talking about what we've learned each day. Again, we're just 5 witnesses into what is really going to be a lengthy case, but one with obviously profound implications for Sade Robinson's family and for a community that has been sort of rocked by this just terrorizing incident, highly unusual case. That's had a lot of attention, and it's not just here in Milwaukee. It's certainly attention that's coming from all across the country. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I will talk a little bit again about the jurors who are going to be deciding this case, and we'll take you up to 1:45 when we expect the court to come back in session. So we'll do that when we come back after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Fox 6's Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk as we continue our coverage of the Maxwell Anderson trial in the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. It is day 2 of the trial, but the first day of opening statements and actual testimony, and we are just a few hours in. The court is currently in recess. They intend to resume at 1:45, so that's just about 10 minutes away. I've been talking to you for the last hour and to Fox 6's Aaron Maben about some of the things we've learned so far today. One thing we haven't mentioned is that during the state's opening statement today, the prosecution's opening statement, there was mention of the fact that you won't find the gory scene you expect. They didn't find this gory scene with blood all over the walls, or something you might expect in a case like this, where there had been such a gruesome dismemberment of body parts. But they said there was some telling info that they found on Maxwell Anderson's phone, which was taken from him when he was arrested a few days after the leg was first found. And one of those things they said was a photo of Sade Robinson face down on a couch, and Maxwell Anderson grabbing her right breast. And the second was a photo of pants and underwear being removed from her body that the prosecutors say evidence will show matches what she was wearing according to surveillance images throughout the evening of their date together. Though the prosecutor says those will be key pieces of evidence that we will hear more about when this comes up. They also say there's that piece of the car we've talked about, which is the tail light of the Honda Civic, that signature C shape of the Honda Civic tail light. There is the gray hoodie that Maxwell Anderson was wearing the night this all happened. That has been recovered, and they say it will supply crucial evidence linking him to the death. And that there are things that the medical examiner will testify to in terms of the observations of how Sade Robinson was either killed or how she was cut into pieces, to, for lack of a better term, that will be significant to all of this. But once again, the defense is going to keep coming back to the fact that there's no murder weapon. We don't know exactly where the death and dismemberment took place. They know where these two were together, and this is what's so unique about this case, is there's tons of evidence of where they were together, and it's clear that Maxwell Anderson is the last person Sade Robinson was with, at least that we know of, that any evidence points to. The last person she was with, he was the last person who saw her alive. They went out on a date together. They went back to his place. By the next morning, she was dead, and she was her body parts were surfacing in various places. All of that seems to point to Maxwell Anderson, but is it enough for the state to prove that he did this? That is what the defense is arguing is not enough. Attorney Tony Cotton says that there is, quote, a mountain of reasonable doubt in this case. That's Tony Cotton you see there in the light blue blazer. Tony, a well-known criminal defense attorney. He recently represented Morgan Geyser in the Slender Man case. In fact, he helped to secure her release from a mental health institution. So he is not unfamiliar with high-profile criminal cases. Another person who is not unfamiliar with those is attorney Julius Kim, who will be joining us throughout the next couple of weeks to offer some expert analysis. And when we talked to him on Fox 6's Open Record this past week, attorney Kim said he has also represented high-profile defendants in homicide cases, but he's also been a prosecutor. And as he put it, when people ask that question, how do you defend someone who may have done something so heinous, he put it that he believes justice is served when both the state and the defense put on their best game, put on their best effort, and let a jury decide where this lies. And obviously, ultimately, it will be the jury in this case that decides if Maxwell Anderson is guilty, if the state has proven its case. We know there are 15 men and women on that jury, mostly women. It's 12 women and 3 men. And you say 15, juries aren't 15, that's true. Juries are 12 members, but there are always alternates. And in this case, because of the expected length of the trial, the court chose to keep 3 alternate jurors. And the way that works is not that they have 12 jurors and 3 identified alternates. There are 15 jurors throughout the course of all testimony, and at the end, they will ultimately draw lots or balls out of a bingo cage or something. They will find a way to then select 3 alternates, and the 12 who will actually serve in the jury room and deliberate over innocence or guilt. The 15 jurors that we know about include 4 from Oak Creek, 3 from Milwaukee, 2 from Greenfield, 1 from Hales Corners, 1 from South Milwaukee, one from St. Francis, one from Wauwatosa, West Allis, and Whitefish Bay. 12 women, 3 men. We know that 9 of these individuals are married, 6 are single or in unmarried relationships. 10 of them have kids, 5 do not have children. We know that 12 are white, 2 black, and 1 Asian, based upon reporters' observations. And we know that the occupations of these 15 individuals include a registered nurse, a nurse practitioner, a social worker, an auto mechanic, a massage therapist, a mail clerk, a retired TV ad salesperson, a graphic designer, a data analyst, a marketing executive, an IT project manager, one person who does commercial snow removal, and another who is a production manager. If you watch jury selection, or if you've ever listened in, the judge will ask some personal things just to get to know some of them. There were people who liked to snowboard, there were gardeners, there were readers, people with all sorts of hobbies. When they were narrowing down the jury pool, you might hear someone speak up and say, well, my husband's part of the Metro law enforcement task force of some sort, or I have a good friend who's a prosecutor, so the defense and the prosecution listened to all of that, and they weeded out the ones they felt either didn't help their case or could not be potentially impartial. There were some who were eliminated simply because they couldn't sit on a jury for 2 weeks. They've got stuff to do. We all do, but some had things they couldn't break, like, for instance, maybe overseas travel plans that couldn't be changed at the last minute. But these 15 individuals are going to be here every day for at least the next 2 weeks, so they've had to give up their lives for all of that. We are still watching to see. We're a few minutes away from the jury, from the court resuming, from jury returning, and testimony continuing this afternoon. If you want to know what to expect, my guess is we're going to be hearing more just details about that timeline. People who witnessed certain things like the discovery of the leg in Warner Mountain Park, people who found pieces of evidence, people who saw things such as potentially the car fire up on the north side. We're going to be hearing a lot of detailed evidence, just officially logging and marking all of these things that the prosecution has laid out. But I can't tell you who we're going to hear from yet this afternoon. I will say that this morning they got through 5 witnesses in fairly quick order. I think we're going to hear from a lot of people because there is a lot of evidence to go through. We still have the rest of the afternoon. Testimony is expected to go until 4:30 each day, and typically they will take this hour to hour and a half lunch break each day. So every day here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, we're going to be spending probably the first hour giving you a detailed recap of what occurred the day before or that morning. And then we are going to obviously tell you what new has happened and what to expect. And then we'll take you to live testimony. We're going to be doing that with you here when the court resumes here in just a couple of minutes. For now, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
All right, it is 1:46 on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday afternoon? Boy, this week's flying by already. Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are covering the Maxwell Anderson trial. That is the man charged with the killing and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. We are already a minute or two past the time when the court said they would be returning and resuming testimony for the afternoon. Not quite happening yet, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. And when the court does return, we're going to take you there live so you can listen in on testimony raw and uninterrupted. And that should be happening here shortly. We've already heard from both the state and defense today with opening statements, and we have heard from 5 witnesses so far, primarily detailing the discovery of the human leg in Warnemount Park that started all of this for most of us, because we knew nothing of what had been happening with Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson until this body part was discovered. And at the time, really, I think maybe some of the first things we heard and a lot of people were concerned about is, was this the beginning of a serial killer? It's not the kind of thing you often find. It's just a body part showing up, washing up along Lake Michigan or in a park in Milwaukee County. Ultimately, it was discovered that that body part and then others that surfaced later down the Lake Michigan shoreline and in other parts of Milwaukee belonged to Sade Robinson, a single victim. And we now know, of course, that she had been out on a date with Maxwell Anderson the night before that leg was discovered. We know she did not show up for work the following day at Pizza Shuttle, and people who were concerned because she was such a reliable worker ultimately reported her missing. And she was reported missing to police on April 2nd, and I believe it was at around 9 p.m., which was actually about 4 hours after the leg was discovered by those individuals walking along the shoreline in Warnemount Park. Earlier that morning, at 7:30 in the morning, is when Sade Robinson's car had been lit on fire, and first responders had been called to react to that. So the car fire occurred in the morning. The leg was found in the afternoon. It was not until 9 o'clock that night that Sade Robinson was officially reported missing, and it did not take long after that for law enforcement to connect the dots between the two. One of the key things we heard today was a sheriff's deputy who said that he spotted the pink toenail polish and the short stature of the person that leg belonged to. When Sade Robinson was then reported missing a few hours later, it didn't take long for law enforcement to connect the two and say they believed that the leg belonged to that missing person. Of course, it would take many more days or weeks to determine through DNA in the state crime lab that in fact the leg was that of Sade Robinson's. We do now know that to be the case, according to what we've been told by police and by prosecutors. We also know that over the course of the next several weeks, more body parts continued to surface. Her torso and one arm surfaced in South Milwaukee along the Lake Michigan shoreline, washed up out of the water. And it was a month later that an arm showed up on the shore of Waukegan, Illinois, Waukegan Beach. There's a lot of controversy after an alderman there in Waukegan somehow got a leak of that photograph and published it on social media. And after that was circulated, it obviously caused a lot of concern. The family found out about it by seeing it online. I'm told that the jury is coming back into the courtroom, so it won't be long before we're taking you back to the Milwaukee County Courthouse for the second half of the first day of testimony. So that should be coming here very soon. But we know that, as I mentioned, those other body parts coming up in South Milwaukee and in Waukegan, Illinois. What has never been found is Sade Robinson's head. Prosecutors talked today in opening statements about her head having been decapitated. That has never been discovered, never been located. One other thing we learned for the first time today is that, and again, graphic testimony, I forewarn you, graphic content, but we learned for the first time during the prosecution's opening statement today that Sade Robinson's breast, one of them, had been cut off as well. That has never been located. So there are parts of Sade Robinson that have never been found, may never be found, but certainly many parts of her did surface along the Lake Michigan shoreline and some as well in other parts of the city of Milwaukee. It looks like now we have the jury back in the box and testimony is going to resume. So we're going to take you back out live to the trial of Maxwell Anderson, the death of Sade Robinson. And we'll take you there right now.
Vandertie, Vandertie.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm currently employed as a detective for the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, having been so employed for just under 10 years, with 3.5 years as a detective.
And were you in your role as a detective then back in early April of 2024?
Yes, I was.
Were you involved in an investigation regarding a leg that was found at Warnemont Park on April 2nd, 2024?
Yes.
The day after the leg was found, Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, were you contacted by someone from the Milwaukee Police Department?
Yes, I was. That was police officer Nora Burlow.
What was the general subject matter about her contact to you?
Sure. Police officer Burlow explained to me that she was conducting a citizen check or a welfare check of a 20-year-old black female who had been last seen on April 1st, 2024, prior to going on an apparent date. And then on April 2nd, her vehicle was found burned under suspicious circumstances, or the vehicle that she had been known to drive was found burned under suspicious circumstances.
Did she identify the person to you that she was concerned about?
Yes.
Okay. Who was that?
Actually, that was brought up later during a briefing with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, our Investigative Services Bureau.
Understood. Who was that missing person that the welfare check was regarding?
Sade Robinson.
Her date of birth?
I don't have the exact date of birth, but she was 19 years old at the time.
Okay. May 10, 2004, does that sound right?
It was in May of 2004.
So Officer Burlow said 20-year-old, but you now know that Sade was 19 at the time, is that
correct? Based upon records that I've reviewed.
All right, thank you. Did you also, upon communicating with the Milwaukee Police Department, as well as during briefings, learn that Sade's phone was not working in some capacity?
Yes, individuals had attempted to contact her without success. The phone had been going to voicemail.
Were you provided with a phone number for Sade Robinson?
Yes, Detective Joanne Donner had conducted some investigation and identified a possible phone number for her.
That possible phone number was 414-510-4769, is that correct?
That is correct.
On April 3rd, when you became involved in this investigation after you were contacted by the Milwaukee Police Department and briefed, did you follow up in any way regarding Sade Robinson's phone?
I did.
What did you do?
Initially, I identified that telephone number, 414-510-4769, was attributed to Verizon Wireless. I queried a couple databases that I've used in the past for doing that. Once I identified that phone number was Verizon Wireless, I initiated an exigency request to Verizon Wireless for cellular records around the time. The purpose of that was to attempt to identify possible locations where this missing person may have been, where this missing person went, and who this missing person may have contacted or been in contact with.
So this exigency request that you're making, that essentially means you're asking for those records from the phone company without a warrant, is that right?
Correct.
And why did you opt for an exigency request here?
Initially, based upon the circumstances, there was a missing individual whose vehicle had been located burned under suspicious circumstances, in addition to a leg being found in the park. At that time, we didn't necessarily know who that leg belonged to, nor would we know exactly who that leg belonged to for a period of time. Individuals had attempted to contact this missing person numerous times without success. That was not regular, or that was not in her, I guess, nature to not answer her phone, and so that was initiated.
Okay. Sometime in the weeks after April 3rd, did you follow up with Verizon Wireless with a warrant to get certified records from that phone company regarding Sade Robinson's phone number?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 282. It's a disc and it's clipped to a piece of paper. Do you know what that is?
Yes, this disc contains the records from Verizon, including the certification attached concerning telephone number 414-510-4769. This is the number that was listed before.
And you made that disc, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you served a warrant on Verizon. They responded by sending you the certified phone records, and that's what's on that disc.
Correct.
They sent it to you electronically, fair?
Correct.
Okay. And that certification, the piece of paper, that piece of paper is also on the disc itself, correct?
Yes, it is.
I would move 282 into evidence, Judge.
It's just one it's just one exhibit for both of them?
One exhibit for both of them. I can staple together.
That's okay. Any objection?
No.
Received.
Thank you. So, Detective, you had said one of the reasons for this exigency request for those records was to see if you could figure out locations where her phone might have been. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, get that information in some form through that exigency request as well as through these certified records?
Yes.
I'm going to put 282 in here. Just give me 1 minute. Remind me again, what was the reason why you were worried about these locations? What did you think that was going to help you and your colleagues do?
So ultimately, we were trying to locate the missing person, Sade Robinson. I know that in today's day and age, most people have cell phones, right? And a lot of times people have cell phones with them. I know that cellular companies provide law enforcement with information relating to the cell sites and the cell site usage for those cellular accounts. And that would help us narrow down potentially where she was, where she had been, additional locations for us to follow up with video, witness interviews, etc.
Possibly even helping you find the phone itself, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to put up on the screen, this is on Exhibit 282, an Excel spreadsheet. The beginning of the title, I'm not going to read the whole thing. The title begins with subscriber_MTN. There are a number of things on this disk, correct, Detective?
Correct.
And in fact, if I pull up the file log here, we're looking at all of the records that they gave you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There are numerous Excel spreadsheets. This subscriber_MTN, this would have been the subscriber information for that phone number that you got from Verizon Wireless, correct?
Yes.
What does it say about who the subscriber to that phone number is and where they live?
The first name listed is Sade, last name Robinson, under address line 1, 1858 North Commerce Street, apartment 309, and city, Milwaukee, state, Wisconsin.
Okay. In these records, as well as the exigency records that you received, did you also get from Verizon Wireless text message content?
Yes, I'm aware that Verizon Wireless maintains SMS, short message service, or text message content for approximately 5 days.
And when you reviewed the exigency records, did you locate text messages from April 1st, 2024 in those records?
Yes, I did.
Were there outgoing texts from Sade's phone on April 1st?
Yes.
I'm going to pull up a different document on Exhibit 282. The beginning title of the Excel spreadsheet is SMS content. SMS stands for what again?
Short message service.
All right. And a lot of these records that we're looking at appear like this. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they do.
All right. This, if you just take a glance, looks like gibberish in a spreadsheet, right?
Lots of numbers and letters on a spreadsheet. Yes.
All right. But if we look closely here, column A that I'm looking at over on the left side of the screen here, that shows what? You can get up if you can't.
Okay.
Judge, may the witness get up?
Of course, feel free.
Column A, the header of column A is titled Message Arrival.
All right. And then if we go across, we get all the way over here where it says originating MDM and terminating NDN. That would be columns I and K, correct?
Correct.
What are those?
Originating MDN would be the sending telephone number in the conversation, and the terminating MDN would be the receiving telephone number in the conversation.
All right. If we go over to column L, what is that?
It's titled Message Content.
And is this where you're going to see the actual substance of the text messages that were sent?
Yes.
All right. Did you locate a text conversation that appeared to be the last text conversation that Sade Robinson was actively engaging with another number?
Yes. The apparent text conversation in the 4 p.m. And early 5 p.m. hour on April 1st, 2024, between her number, the 414-510-4769, and the other number, the 262-416-4874 telephone number.
Okay. That 262-416-4874 number, did you also follow up and request exigency records or any kind of records related to that phone number?
I personally did not. Special Agent George Reiner through the FBI did request exigency.
Okay. Did you then later after that request records from that phone number?
Yes.
Through a warrant?
Through a search warrant.
And you received certified records?
I did.
Okay. I'm going to go direct your attention right about here. You see the message I've highlighted there?
Yes.
Okay. This message, if you go over to what time it was sent, what are we looking at?
The timestamp here is 4/1, April 1st, 2024. 17:15. 17:15 is military time for 5:15. However, I know that Verizon records for these SMS content messages are stored in Eastern time or provided in Eastern time. So we, being in Central time, would subtract 1 hour from that time to make it our local time.
All right. So that would mean this message was sent at what time?
It would be at 4:15.
And the content of the message over here in column L, or excuse me, column M, is what?
States, where are we meeting?
And who sent that message to who?
That message was sent from the 414-510-4769 number to 262-416-4874.
All right. And why don't you, starting with that message, go down and tell the jury what the exchange is between those numbers moving forward in time from that text message.
So after the first text message, where are we meeting? The reply from, or actually the next message is again from 414-510-4769 stating I can do 5.
So that those two both came from Sade's phone.
Correct.
Okay. The response from the 262 number is what?
Response is downtown somewhere, question mark.
Okay. How does Sade respond?
Okay.
How does the 262 number respond to that?
Brought house on 3rd, question mark.
How does Sade respond?
Perfect.
And that message, the perfect message, was sent at what time?
Local time, 4:28 p.m.
Back over to column M. The 262 number sends 2 consecutive messages to Sade reading what?
Okay, I'm going to shower quick. I'll probably get there more around 5:15. And then, are you hungry? Question mark. I need to stop at Twisted Fisherman to pick up my W-2 from last year, and we could eat there first.
How does Sade respond to those 2 texts?
Okay and yes.
Then,
And then, are we eating at the Brock House or the other place?
and how does the 262 message number respond to Sade's question?
Let's eat at Twisted. I'm feeling seafood.
How does Sade respond to that?
Yes, I love seafood.
What does the 262 number say next?
Sounds good. I'm about to leave. I'll be there soon.
Okay. I don't know what happened there, but the TV went out. And then came back and then went out again. All right, we're back. After the 262 number says, sounds good, I'm about to leave and I'll be there soon. Actually, before I ask my next question, that message is sent at what time?
4:54 p.m.
And then there's this odd-looking response after that. Do you know what that's about?
I don't know the exact content of the message. Based upon the various symbols and characters, I believe it to be some sort of emoji or other characters that can't be necessarily translated into the SMS content system.
On an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. After that, there is a text from the 262 number to Sade that says what?
Just got to Twisted.
And that text message was sent at what time?
5:11 p.m. Central Time.
On April 1st.
Correct.
Subsequent to that, Sade responds with what?
Okay, are you inside? Question mark.
And the 262 number responds what?
Yes.
All right. And then after that, as we go down, are there any other outgoing text messages, SMS messages from Sade's phone?
Can you grab the microphone and pull it closer to you? I guess there's some difficulty in hearing you. Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. The question I have for you is after Sade asks the question, okay, are you inside? And then receives the answer of yes. Does she engage in any other outgoing messages after that?
I do not believe she engages with any other individuals, no.
Okay. And so I want to direct your attention to line 451. There seems to be an outgoing, some kind of message from Sade at that time, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like it is gibberish in response to a text message from True Religion. Is that right?
Yes, it appears to be a targeted advertisement or an advertisement sent to her device, and it appears that an automated message was sent from her device back to the telephone number that sent the advertisement.
Other than that one, Are there any other messages that you saw in the records, both the exigency records and these records, that showed Sade texting, sending outgoing text messages to other people?
No.
So the last conversation in the records is Sade's conversations with that 262 number you had mentioned before?
Yes.
That "okay, are you inside" text that Sade sent was sent at what time?
Local time was 5:18 p.m.
And it appeared to you that was the last outgoing text she sent, correct?
Yes.
You can have a seat, Detective.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, that information about the text messages, you originally had it through the exigency records, although we just looked at it from the certified records, right?
Correct.
So it appeared to you that the last person Sade was texting was that 262 number, correct?
Yes.
Did you subsequently look up in any kind of databases to see if you had that number listed to any person?
Yes.
And did you find a number that your records suggested that phone might belong to?
Yes.
And what was the name of that person?
Maxwell Anderson.
Are you aware of whether or not your department arrested Maxwell Anderson on April 4th of 2024?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the photograph from that arrest?
It's actually April of, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can you repeat the date?
Sure.
Please.
Let me put it this way. After you went through these records and you
Yes.
linked up that phone number to the name Maxwell Anderson, did your department arrest Maxwell Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed the booking photo from that arrest?
Yes.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 445. Is that the photo you saw?
Yes, it is.
I would move 445 into evidence as published.
Any objection?
No.
It's received. You may publish.
You see that person in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you identify where that person is for the record by indicating where they're seated and what they might be wearing?
That individual is seated at the defense table wearing a blue, appears to be flannel, blue and black checkered flannel shirt.
I'd ask the record to reflect that the witness identified the defendant.
Any objection?
No.
Record will so reflect.
You subsequently got not only exigency records, but also through a warrant, certified records from that phone number, correct?
Yes.
Did you do any similar practice to figure out what phone company serviced that 262 phone number?
Yes.
What was it?
AT&T.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 281. What is Exhibit 281 if you know?
Exhibit 281 is another disk that I produced containing files from AT&T concerning telephone number 262-416-4874, and it also includes the certification of certificate of authenticity of domestic records pursuant to Federal Rules of Evidence 902 sub 11 and 902 sub 13.
All right, so that, again, like the Verizon records, it's a disk of the certified records, and the piece of paper that is the certification is also located on this.
Yes.
I would move 281 in.
Any objection?
No.
281 is received.
Thank you. Give me 1 second, pull up the document I need. Similar to the phone records servicing Sade Robinson's phone, there's information in these records about the subscriber for that 262-416 number, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It would be the file labeled report CT.
Report CT, all right. I've got on the screen now from Exhibit 281 the file titled Report CT. I think, Judge, this TV is about to turn off.
We'll see if we can help.
All right, we're back. There is specific user information on this page pertaining to the number 262-416-4874, right?
Yes.
And that would be the phone number that the last phone number Sade was texting.
Yes.
And who does it say is the contact name for that?
The contact name for that particular telephone number is Max Anderson.
All right. What is Max Anderson's date of birth?
11/26/1990.
So at the time, he would have been 33?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also come to learn when you were trying to go through these various phone records and make the exigency requests for those records that Sade Robinson was known to have a Life 360 account?
Around that time, yes.
Did you ultimately serve a warrant upon Life 360 to get those certified records?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury, just generally speaking, what Life 360 is?
Life 360 is a mobile application that can be installed on cellular devices. It's primarily used for location sharing services. So if you would like to share your location with your family members or friends, at any point in time, they can essentially see where you are. You can provide them updates as to your location.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 283. Do you know what that is?
Yes, exhibit number 283 is a disc containing the records I received from Life 360 Incorporated.
Similar to the phone records we've discussed, are they certified?
Yes.
Is that what the piece of paper that's attached to the disc is?
Yes, including the certification of records for these records that I received.
Could you see if that microphone you're standing in front of is on? And if it's not, the one actually next to it, I was thinking, and if that one's not on, can we turn it on? Because there's a difficulty hearing you, is what I'm being advised. So I guess when you're approaching the bench where you're at, it's difficult for you to be picked up. So if you could, I guess, just position, this picks up the DAR, so it's not amplifying your voice, but if you could go near your table and put the mic to the side, maybe, that'd be great.
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No worries. Sorry about that. Could you re-ask your last question? I think it was relative to the certification of the last exhibit being Life 360.
Thank you. That piece of paper that's attached to the disc, that would be the certification for those records, correct?
Yes.
I'd move 283 in.
Any objection?
No.
283 is received.
And then, Detective, lastly, I'm going to give you Exhibit 284. When you got the cell phone records, you got some other records from those phone companies about their cell towers, correct?
I received a cell site database for AT&T from NDCAC, which is the National Domestic NDCAC, which is the National Domestic Communications Assistance Center. That those certified cell site lists from AT&T were provided from NDCAC. The initial cell site lists from Verizon were also from NDCAC, and then a few weeks later, I received certified cell site lists directly from Verizon.
Is that what Exhibit 284 is?
Yes.
And that's, again, a disk you made based on the stuff you got from those companies?
Correct, pertaining to those companies.
I'd move 284 in as well.
Any objection?
And what else? I don't think I moved 283, so I'm going to move that as well.
You already did. 283 is in.
I don't object.
284 is in as well now.
These phone records that we discussed for Max Anderson's phone, as well as Sade Robinson's phone, and then those cell site records could further be used to map out approximate locations of where those phones would have been at various times. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Were you able to do some version of the same thing with just the exigency records?
Yes.
Okay, so the exigency records, you got that text conversation we had talked about where they talk about going to Twisted Fisherman around 5:15, is that right?
Yes.
And then you also got some information about phone location.
Yes.
Can you describe, related to Sade's phone, what information you were able to get?
So for her device specifically, we were able to get call detail records. The exigency records included what Verizon states is RTT, or real-time tool. That is a type of engineering data. Includes the cell site that was utilized, also the sector or the direction in which the antenna was facing, and also a distance from the cell site. In addition to the real-time tool data, we also received call detail records, which includes telephone calls, who made the call, or to which number the call was made, or the calling party number to Sade's telephone number, the cell site that was used at that time, duration of the call, and then the text message content as well.
All right, and with that information, actually, before I ask that question, it'd be fair to say, based on that last text conversation that she had, that it appeared she was planning on meeting up with someone at Twisted Fisherman, specifically Max Anderson, correct?
Yes.
Did you then use that location information that you just described to try to figure out if that could tell you whether it appeared she actually went there?
Yes.
Where is Twisted Fisherman, first of all?
Twisted Fisherman is located at 1200 West Canal Street in the city and county of Milwaukee.
All right. What happened when you looked up that location information?
It appeared that her device traveled to that location, or in the general area of that location, in the late 4 p.m. hour and early 5 p.m. hour on April 1st, 2024.
And from there, in a general sense, can you tell us what information you had relative to the phone location of Sade's phone?
Yes. The device remained in that general area until approximately 6:30 p.m., at which time it traveled north and east to the general area of Dukes on Water, which is located at 158 East Juneau Avenue in the city and county of Milwaukee.
After that area of North Water Street, then what? Around
9 p.m. or shortly after 9 p.m., the device traveled south and west from that location.
During your initial, when you were initially trying to figure out who the 262 number belonged to and learned that it may belong to Max Anderson, did you also learn of an address that was believed to be belong to Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Was that 3161 South 39th Street?
That is correct.
That'd basically be between Oklahoma and Euclid on South 39th Street, correct?
In that area, yes.
After leaving Dukes on Water, did the phone move to, or appear to move to, a location around Mr. Anderson's?
It did.
What about after that?
So from approximately it arrived in that area about 9:20 p.m. or shortly thereafter. It remained in that area until approximately 12:45 or shortly thereafter on April 2nd, 2024.
After that?
After that time, approximately 12:45, shortly thereafter on April 2nd, 2024, device moved north and east to the area of downtown Milwaukee.
And after that?
The device was in the area of downtown Milwaukee and north of the area of downtown Milwaukee, general area of the Milwaukee River, and Kern Park, Pleasant Valley Park as well, in the mid 1:30 a.m. hour or shortly thereafter.
Pleasant Valley Park and Kern Park, those would sort of border the Milwaukee River, is that correct?
Correct. They're adjacent to the Milwaukee River.
In the River West neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to pull up Exhibit 443, which has already been admitted. Just need 1 second here. All right, Detective, can you see this map?
I'll have to get up just because of the glare on the screen.
All right, and just to recap, I probably should have had this up when we were going through it first, but this area right here, West Canal Street, this is about the location of where Twisted Fisherman is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you pull that mic over if you're going to stand there? Thank you. Go ahead.
So after leaving that location, it appeared the phone had gone sort of in a northeast direction over in the area of Water Street and Juneau. Is that what you said before?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of right up in this area here where my mouse is. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. And again, we're talking generalizations. Is that fair to say?
Correct. This is all based on cell site location information, so cell sites, direction of the antenna. Yes.
Okay. And to be clear, that information was not giving you a pinpointed location of the phone.
That is correct.
Then after that, I think you indicated it goes down to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence near 39th and Oklahoma here, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then it moved up towards downtown, and I think you said by the 1:30 hour near this area in River West, Pleasant Valley Park, correct?
Yeah, it was approximately 1:30 a.m., shortly after 1:30 a.m.
All right. Picking up from there, where does the phone appear to go from those exigency records that you were looking at?
From approximately 2 p.m. until 2:10.
2 p.m.?
Or 2 o'clock in the morning, I should say, 2 o'clock a.m. Until 2:10 or 2:12 a.m. The device moved west.
All right.
To the area of approximately West Capitol Drive and Fond du Lac Avenue.
Okay. So this street here that I'm highlighting
yes.
with my mouse, okay.
Yes.
And then does it double back east?
It does.
And then what?
It doubles back east, and then travels south.
Towards where?
Towards the Mitchell interchange.
Around what time?
Approximately a little bit before 2:30 or 2:30 in the morning.
All right, then what?
It would have traveled west.
Do you want to point out what you're talking about?
So it travels south, and then it travels west to the area of I-41 or I-894 and approximately South 76th Street at that time.
And what is that time, by the way?
Approximately 2:34 a.m.
All right, then does it double back east?
Yes.
And where does it appear to go from there, if you want to point out?
The device travels east, south, and then east again.
Where?
So east in the area of I-41, I-894, south in the area of I-41, I-94, and then east in the area of College Avenue.
Okay, and that'd be just south of the airport, which I'm circling here with the mouse, correct?
Correct, in that general area.
And what time does it, and what does it do next and at what time?
After traveling east, it traveled to the area of Warnemont Park or Sheridan Park and Lake Michigan.
All right, and if I zoom in on...
Arrived in that area shortly after 2:50 a.m.
Shortly after 2:50 a.m., the phone appears to be around the area of Warnemont Park here, correct?
Yes.
And does it continue moving, or does it appear to stop for a period of time, or be in one location for a period of time?
For a period of time from 2:50 in the morning, yes. It
All right.
Was in a particular area, not moving substantially.
Not moving substantially, okay. Until when?
Approximately 4:30 in the morning on April 2nd, 2024.
So it appears to be in an area consistent with being at Warnemont Park from about 2:50 to approximately 4:30.
Yes.
And then what happens?
The device traveled north and west a short distance.
Point out what you're talking about?
Sure. To the area of State Highway 794 and East Howard Avenue, which would be in this area. There's a cell site in that particular area. The last records were just before 2:40 a.m. on April 2nd, 2024, using a cell site in that location.
You said 2:40 is the last record?
4:40, I should say.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just to recap, when it's in this area that's on the screen now, arrives what appears to be consistent with the area of Warnemont Park around 2:50, remains stationary until about 4:30, and then moves slightly north and slightly west.
Correct.
And then do the records stop?
Correct.
Okay. Just to be very, very clear about this, what you're just describing, number one, you're not saying that it's telling you the exact pinpoint location of the phone, correct?
Correct.
And this is just a general summary of the locations, fair?
Correct.
What was the purpose at the time what were you going to do with this information at the time that you were getting these records initially as exigency records?
So these were, again, locations that investigators could look for follow-up pieces of information, attempting to locate Sade and attempting to locate additional video evidence or interview individuals who may have been in those particular areas at those times.
Okay. When you were analyzing these records, where you said you had mentioned an FBI special agent before, correct?
Yes.
Who was that person?
George Reinerth.
It's Reinerth for the record. Did he sort of work with you to get the locations we just discussed?
Yes, we worked together on that.
And did you subsequently yourself, working with Special Agent Reinerth, more formally map out those locations?
Yes.
And did you turn those records over to him for him to map out as well?
Yes, I provided the records that I received from Verizon and AT&T and also Life 360 to Special Agent Reinerth.
I think this kind of goes without saying, but those locations, you passed that information along to Detective Donner as well as other investigators to conduct follow-up in those areas, correct?
Yes, Detective Donner, other investigators from the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and other investigators from the Milwaukee Police Department.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Cross?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I just want to start with just backing up why you requested these cell tower records. So you requested cell tower records because typically people have their phone on them, right?
Correct.
And when you have your phone on you, it's constantly tracking your movements via these satellite towers.
The phone is attempting to connect to the tower with the best signal, yes, if it were to need to make a phone call or a data connection.
Okay. And you can use that location information for every time the phone's connecting to that tower to kind of track the path of someone's movement, right?
Correct.
And so if you're trying to pinpoint where someone was at a specific time or a general area, you can read these records and determine where in the general area they would be.
You can determine the cell site that was used, the direction from which the antenna is facing, and then also possibly a distance from the actual antenna that was used.
But it's not real precise because you can't pinpoint exactly where someone is.
Correct.
You can't pinpoint how long they're in that specific area because it's a range, right?
Can you ask the question or rephrase the question?
Based on the cell tower data, are you able to tell where someone is for a certain duration of time?
In relation to the other records, we can get an approximation, a time frame.
Okay, but it's an approximation. It's not precise.
We know when the records were generated, but we'd have to consider it in relation to other records.
Okay, and you might be able to tell a general area where someone is, but you don't know. The records can't tell you why the person is in the specific area. Correct?
Correct.
And it can't tell you what that person is doing in that location. Correct?
Correct.
And it can't tell you who that person is with, if they're with anyone.
Correct, unless you have other information that goes along with that.
Okay. And so the state showed us this I guess spreadsheet that had all these numbers. I think they described it as gibberish, right?
Correct.
Do you manually look at that, or do you ever put that into a system to kind of make it easier to read?
There is software that we use to make it easier to read. It can be mapped manually, but we use software.
And so you got all these records before Mr. Anderson was ever arrested, right?
Correct.
And so
the exigency records.
Okay. And so you review these records and you look at what past, conversations Ms. Robinson's phone had with other people, right?
For a period of time, yes.
And I guess we looked at some of these. You read through some of these text messages that Sade's phone has with Max's phone, and they start this this conversation, you said at 4:15 p.m. on April 1st, right?
I would have to look at the exact timestamp, but yes, that sounds correct.
Okay, and they're texting back and forth. Where are we meeting? And you know, Sade says I can do 5, right?
Correct.
And they talk about where they might want to meet. Broad House on 3rd, and they ultimately decide to meet at Twisted Fisherman, correct?
Correct.
And in the outgoing message from Max's phone, it says, I need to stop at Twisted Fisherman to pick up my W-2 from last year, right?
Yes.
And you know what a W-2 is, right? It's a work document.
Yes. It's a tax-related work document.
So one can conclude that Max most likely worked there at some point, right?
Yes.
And he wanted to bring Sade there, a place that he's known at because he worked there, right?
Yes.
It wasn't some obscure location where, you know, Max didn't have any contact with, right?
I didn't know any previous contacts, but based upon the context of the text message content, yes.
Okay. And those text messages, they seem pretty light, correct? It's just two people getting to know each other. That's what the text messages seem indicative of, right?
I guess I don't know necessarily the backstory to the message, I guess, conversation, but it's a basic conversation, yes, about meeting.
There's nothing threatening in those texts, right?
No.
Not aggressive?
No.
Okay. And you talked about these weird symbols that you said that you believe they might be an emoji.
Correct.
And you know what emojis are, right?
Yes.
You can send smiley faces, right?
Smiley faces are one, yes.
You can send animals.
Yes.
Vegetables.
Sure.
And all sorts of hearts, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of like it's a playful image, right? Usually I mean, that's typically from your, real life experience that you send those and they're kind of like a playful image.
It can be, yes.
And so I want to move just forward a little bit. You said that the last outgoing message from Sade's phone is around 5:18 when she asks, "Are you inside?"
Yes.
And that's the last outgoing text message, right?
In that, yes.
But you're aware that in this day and age, there's lots of ways to communicate with people.
I do.
I mean, used to be a lot of emails, right?
I suppose, yes.
And then I guess as generations move up, there's all these social media platforms that you can communicate with people, right?
Correct.
Like Snapchat.
Correct.
Like Instagram.
Correct.
They call it a DM, right? You can message someone, direct message, it's a DM.
Correct.
And TikTok, right?
Correct.
And those cell records you analyzed, those didn't contain any information from any of those applications, right?
Correct. That would have to be from a device-specific information.
Okay, so based on the records you reviewed, you can't tell whether Ms. Robinson's phone was communicating with anyone else on any of these other platforms.
Correct.
And then once you identified the phone number that Sade was texting with about meeting at Twisted Fisherman, are you there? You determined that was Max Anderson's phone, right?
Yes.
And then you arrested him right after that, right?
I personally did not.
But are you aware that law enforcement arrested him shortly after that?
Yes.
Okay. And so based on the cell tower records that you reviewed, you were able to determine that, Sade's phone goes to Twisted Fisherman, and then it goes to Duke's on Water, and then it goes to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence, right?
Yes.
And it's there for a period of time. Do you remember how long it was in that area?
In the area of Mr. Anderson's residence?
Yeah, sorry.
So it left the area of downtown from the area of Dukes on Water and went down to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence shortly after 9 p.m. So approximately 9:20 p.m. until 12:45 or shortly thereafter the following morning.
Okay, and then her phone around 12:45 a.m. leaves that area, correct?
Yes,
And it travels to the north side of Milwaukee, correct?
travels to the area of downtown prior to traveling north and west.
Okay, so it moves to the downtown city area of Milwaukee,
Correct.
away from kind of the residential area where Max's house is.
Correct.
And then it moves towards the Milwaukee River, right?
Yes.
And it's true around 1:15 a.m. it is in the area around her apartment, correct?
Correct.
And it's around that area for, I believe, about 15 minutes.
It was in the area of downtown Milwaukee, yes.
I mean, I'm talking about close to her apartment.
I would have to look at the exact, I guess, records to determine that, but it was in the area of the downtown Milwaukee for a period of time, yes.
Okay. And her apartment was in the downtown Milwaukee area, correct?
Yes.
And then, based on the cell tower records, it kind of heads up maybe towards almost Shorewood area, right?
North, yes.
Okay. And then, ultimately, I mean, it's the phone is essentially traveling throughout the downtown and the greater Milwaukee area, right?
Yes.
And then ultimately it's heading down south and ends up at Warnemont Park, correct?
The area of Warnemont Park, Sheridan Park, and Lake Michigan, yes.
Okay. And again, this is just an estimate. We can't pinpoint exactly where this phone was at any given time, right?
Correct.
And so what these cell tower records really do is they tell us where someone's phone is, and why that's important in an investigation is because typically people have their phones on them.
Yes, that's fair.
And you use it to, ideally try to figure out where someone was in a general area at a certain time, right?
Yes.
And all these records that you were testifying to are related to Sade Robinson's phone, right?
Yes.
They don't tell, none of those records told you where Mr. Anderson's phone was, correct?
Yes, we obtained those later, along with the Life 360 information from her application,
Okay.
Sade's application.
And when you reviewed, well, I guess one of the last text messages that was received by Sade's phone was from Max, where he asked how work is going, correct?
Yes.
And based on the cell tower data you got about Max's phone, his phone stayed inside of his residence, correct?
Based on my understanding of his cellular records, the device was off overnight, and then after it was back on the network, that message was sent, yes.
Okay, my question was, his phone, based on the cell tower data,
It was in the area, yes, in the area of his residence.
Okay,
general
and
area of his residence.
throughout all these cell tower records, when you're comparing Max's phone to Sade's phone, they're together at the Twisted Fisherman, correct?
Correct.
Then they're together at Duke's on Water, correct?
Correct.
And then they both travel consistently together to Max's house, correct?
Correct.
And then Sade's phone leaves the area of Max's house, correct?
Correct.
And Max's phone stays in the area of his house, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
State.
Just briefly, when you're talking about, when we were talking about using phone location to maybe even find Sade herself, the phone location information from these records is really only useful if the person keeps their phone on them, correct?
Yes.
All right, so if someone left their phone behind, tracking the location of it wouldn't lead you to them, fair?
Correct.
All right, nothing else.
Defense?
I have nothing, thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Detective. State, your next witness.
Detective Spittelmeister.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. If you could please be seated, seat, and spell your name for the record.
Nathan, Nathan, Spittelmeister, Spittlemeister.
Are you a detective with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
How long have you been a law enforcement officer with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
For about 9 years.
How long as a detective?
3.5.
Were you involved in investigating, conducting follow-up investigation related to a leg found at Warmont Park on April 2nd, 2020?
Yes, I was.
And one of your roles in this investigation was to look in the area of where the leg was found for videos. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I have up on the screen next to you exhibit number 1 that's already been admitted. This would be the area where the leg was found, right?
That's correct.
Did you go to various locations that are depicted in this map to recover video?
I did.
Can you tell the jury where?
Cudahy High School, Cudahy Police Department, the Cudahy Water Department.
All right. I'm going to show you exhibit 11, 12, and 27. Exhibit 11, can you open that and tell us what it is?
Do you need a scissors?
No. This is a flash drive containing the video footage that was recovered from the pump station or the water department.
The next one, 12.
This is a CD containing the video footage that I recovered from the Cudahy High School.
And then the last disc, I think it said 27.
Yes, that is the video footage I recovered from the Cudahy Police Department.
And how is it that you know that flash drive and those 2 discs contain video you recovered?
My initials are written above the titles on each piece of evidence.
You wrote them?
Yes.
Okay. I'd remove 11, 12, and 27 in.
Any objection?
No.
They're received.
All right, Detective, before playing them, I want to use the map to just help us understand where these videos are going to be from. So the building I'm pointing to with my pen here, that is the Cudahy Water Department, correct?
That is correct.
And the building I'm pointing at here, it says Cudahy City Hall, the police department is there.
That is correct.
And then right north of that, where my pen is going now, that's the high school, correct?
Correct.
What cameras are we going to be looking at from the Cudahy Water Department?
There is one camera that is on the water department building that faces, or that is on the south side of the building, and it faces southeast.
Does it show Pulaski Avenue here?
It does.
All right. Continue.
It also captures into the distance of Warnemont Park. That's the only camera recovered from the actual water department building.
There's another camera that you recovered video from here, correct?
Yes.
Are there actually multiple cameras from that pump house?
There are two cameras.
What directions do they face?
One is on the north side of that pump house, and it faces north, capturing a sidewalk, a gravel parking area, and the tree line that heads down to the beach.
What does the camera that faces south depict?
The camera that faces southeast, it depicts Lake Michigan and the sidewalk.
All right. The videos we're going to watch today, are we going to watch any of the videos that face south?
No.
Why is that? Did you find anything on them?
There was nothing of evidentiary value, just the lake.
The Cudahy Police Department that I'm pointing to right here, where are the cameras that we're going to watch from there?
There are two cameras. One is on the east side of the Cudahy Police Department, and it faces east, and it captures the large open field area, as also with Pulaski Avenue, and approximately where the gate would be for the pump house access road.
What's the quality of that video?
Very poor.
Okay. Grainy?
Very grainy.
Nevertheless, you can see lights though, correct?
Yes.
All these videos we're discussing are from the middle of the night, fair?
Yes, they are.
Then, is there another camera from the police department that we're going to watch?
Yes, we'll have one other video that was recovered. On that camera is positioned on the west side of the building, and it faces southwest, capturing Lake Drive.
And then the high school, what does the high school show?
The high school also had two cameras. One is facing on the south side of the building, and it faces south, and it captures a very wide frame of Pulaski Avenue, the entrance to Warnemont Park, and the pump house access road.
All right, I'm going to start with Exhibit 27, which is the Cudahy Police Department video. Judge, I would ask if jurors wanted to stand up at this time, would the court allow that?
We can pull this TV closer to the jurors, I think. And that might help. That one has to stay at the edge of this table, so I can't bring it that much more forward.
Are you able to see this?
I can always move my position, sir.
And I guess if anybody at the backside wants to come closer to this one, you could. Or if you can see, okay.
All right. This is the Cudahy Police Department video. On the bottom, it looks like there's a date and a timestamp, correct?
That's correct.
And what can you tell us generally about the accuracy of that date and timestamp?
On the camera that's facing east, it's probably about a minute and 20 seconds fast than the actual confirmed timestamps that we were able to get.
All right. So right now I have the video queued up. The title of the video begins to CUPD East. we are looking towards Lake Michigan, is that correct?
That's correct.
And where are we going to be wanting to look when this video plays, and what are we going to be seeing? If you could describe that for the jury.
At the top of the video feed, you're going to see a white shed.
Okay.
In the area of that white shed, you will see a pair of headlights or taillights from the vehicle that you'll be able to see traveling east on what is Pulaski Avenue.
All right. And by going east, it's going away from this camera, correct?
That's correct.
Not across the screen where my mouse is doing right now, right?
Correct. That would be Sheridan.
And where you see those lights, you've obviously been here yourself, fair?
Yes.
Where does it appear that those lights are heading towards?
To the Pump House Access Road. Pulaski Avenue ends at Sheridan, and then it turns into a gated access to the Pump House Access Road.
So Pulaski Avenue then would be to the right of this camera?
Correct.
All right, I'm going to play this 48-second clip. And when you see it, detective, please point out what you were talking about.
Right there.
All right, I've paused it at 33 seconds. It's this set of lights I'm circling here.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to play it from 33. And the lights have disappeared, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so by 2:54:17 a.m. on the camera, the lights are gone.
That's correct.
And would that be consistent with the vehicle arriving at that gate around that time?
That's correct.
The next clip I'm going to play is titled 6 space CUPD. We're looking at the same camera now, correct?
That's correct.
But a different time.
Correct.
What time are we looking at?
4:32 a.m.
I'm going to play this clip. It's 39 seconds. What are we going to see?
From the last location that we saw the lights earlier on the previous video, you will see those LED headlights again, and they will appear to be traveling in the opposing direction, heading west on Pulaski Avenue.
Away from the lake?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us when you see them.
Right there.
All right, so about 4:32:24.
That's correct.
Playing, I paused it at 17 seconds. I'm playing it from there. And by 4:32:38-ish, they're off camera, correct?
That's correct.
Last clip is titled 8 CUPD, different camera. Tell us what we're looking at.
This is the camera that's on the west side of the Cudahy Police Department. It is facing southwest, and you see Lake Drive is the road directly to the west of that parking lot.
So Lake Drive would be this road here,
That's correct.
and to get to Pulaski Avenue, which would get you into Warmont Park, if you were here, you would essentially go down this street and you would turn left up here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What are we going to be looking for and see on this one?
The subjects, or the vehicle that was captured on Pulaski Avenue, we'll not be able to see it traveling on Pulaski Avenue, but on the houses on the left side of the video frame, you're going to see those houses lighted by headlights that would be coming towards them. You'll then see a vehicle that will enter the camera frame traveling north.
Away from Pulaski Avenue.
Correct.
Playing clip 8. 8 CUPD. It's 55 seconds. Tell us when we see what you just described, please.
And there's the start of the headlights.
All right, I'm going to pause it at 36 and back up 10 seconds to 26. Play it again. Right there?
Yes.
And now you see the headlights of a vehicle heading northbound?
That's correct.
Okay. Paused at 44 seconds. What general description can you get of the vehicle from that?
That vehicle appears to be a smaller sedan with kind of like C taillights, because you are able to see the end of the taillights on that camera frame.
Okay. Pretty blurry, but small sedan style vehicle.
Correct.
All right. Dark colored?
Yes, sir.
And what did you say about the timestamp here related to the other timestamp? So right now it's just gone off frame at 4:34:56 a.m.
This camera that faces west appeared to be about 40 seconds fast, a little bit different from the camera on the east.
Okay. Exhibit 12 is going to come up next. This is the Cudahy High School video. About to see somewhat of a similar camera frame, but depicting similar areas, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Going to start with the video labeled 450-student parking lot. It'll just take a minute to load quick. Was there, and while that's loading, let me ask you, Detective, was there a specific reason why you were looking for video footage from these locations from that specific time frame of 2:50 a.m. to about 4:40 a.m.?
We had received records from Life 360 that depicted that the victim's phone had been in the area between 2:50 a.m. and 4:30 a.m.
So you zoned in on that time frame because that was the information you had about when Sade's phone appeared to have been in the area of Warnemont Park, correct?
That's correct.
And it obviously goes without saying you had known already that a leg had been found there on April 2nd.
Yes.
When was it that you were going to collect these videos then? Would it have been that day?
I would have started on April 3rd.
All right. I have the student parking lot video queued up here. This one is sort of difficult to see, but what are we going to want to be looking at? If you could orient the jury, please.
On the upper left-hand side of the video, you'll see again a white shed. That is the same shed I pointed out in the Cudahy Police Department video. And
the thing I'm circling here?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
To the right is a building is going to be on the right side. That is the Cudahy Police Department, where we had the other video from.
Okay.
What we're going to see is going to be on the upper left side of the video, and you'll see headlights again traveling on Pulaski east away from the camera towards the pump house access road.
Okay, and this is obviously in a different video player. Your date and timestamp for this video is down here in the lower left-hand corner, correct?
Correct.
And the road you're talking about, this would be that white shed, the road is right about over here, fair?
That's correct.
Is this where we're, general area where we're gonna see the lights from that same vehicle from the other video?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm gonna cue it up. What can you tell us about the date and timestamp being accurate for this video?
The Cudahy High School is one of the first places that I had access to recover video footage. While I was in the school resource officer's office, I reviewed the timestamps and confirmed that they were correct to the second.
Based on checking your time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna play this video from 2:52 a.m. to 2:53 a.m. And detective, if you could, if Your Honor will allow the witness to stand up and point out what he's talking about, as it is kind of small on the top of the screen.
That's fine, just pull that microphone as far over as you can.
Can you bring the mic with you if possible?
Ooh, I apologize for that.
All right, playing at 2:52:02 a.m.
Right here. Right where I just pointed was a vehicle traveling east on Pulaski.
All right, where my mouse is circling here?
That's correct, and it's pulling up to a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Sheridan.
So it can either go left to go north on Sheridan, right to go south towards the golf course, or straight to the gate of the Pump House Road, correct?
That's correct.
And what does it do?
It goes straight and towards the Pump House access road.
And you know that because you can't see its lights going to the left or right, fair?
That's correct.
Pausing it at 2:52:58 a.m. Now, this video has a scroll bar at the bottom, and I can move it, and the video will play with it, correct?
That's correct.
Have you gone through this to see if there's any other any other vehicles that go that same direction down towards that service road in between the times of 2:52 a.m. and 4:30 a.m.?
I did.
Are there any other vehicles that travel that route?
No, they're not.
Or come out of there?
I observed nothing of note when reviewing the video footage in between the time frames.
All right, and I'm scrolling ahead on the bottom here, and I'm gonna go all the way up until 4:34 a.m. Or as close as I can get. All right, I'm gonna play it from 4:33:37 a.m. What are we gonna see?
You'll see a pair of headlights that will come out of where the Pump House access road is, which is the last place we saw the vehicle traveling.
Please point out when you see it. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong time. I'm going back to 4:30:50. Or I'm going to start it from 4:30:43. Do you see it?
Yes.
Point to it, please. Okay. Very faint?
Very faint, but in the upper left-hand corner of the video.
Where does it appear the vehicle immediately goes to?
The vehicle is going to make a left turn onto Sheridan and enter Warnemont Park.
Towards the golf course?
Correct.
And is that a through road down there?
No, it's not. It dead ends at the golf course at a parking lot.
Okay. And why don't you describe what we're looking at as it's happening, as the video continues to play forward here. It's now at 4:31:46.
You can see lights inside of Warnemont Park, and the vehicle has entered into the area and now has turned around at the dead end and is heading back north on Sheridan towards Pulaski.
Is that it right where my mouse is here?
The vehicle is now approaching the four-way stop sign at Pulaski and is going to make a left turn and head west on Pulaski towards Lake Drive.
Okay. So it's kind of coming towards the camera, fair?
Yes.
And now it's turning westbound on Pulaski.
That's correct.
All right. And it's heading west, and it's going to go behind that white shed at this point, correct?
Correct.
All right. Pause it at 4:33 a.m. I'm going to now bring up the video on this disc titled 400 Main Entrance. And while that's loading, Detective, essentially what you observed there was a vehicle entering the service road around somewhere in the 2:52 to 2:53 a.m. hour, correct?
That's correct.
That vehicle, you never see a vehicle go in or out in the meantime up until about 4:50 a.m.
That's correct.
And when the vehicle leaves, it goes down the dead end road and then appears to have doubled back, go back to Pulaski, and then leave the part to the west.
That's correct.
That's what we just watched?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would that have been consistent with what was on that Cudahy police video as well?
Yes, sir.
That camera's a little clearer, though.
Much clearer.
I have on the screen now the video from the main entrance to the school, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just very briefly, let me go back to the map here. So those videos we watched from the police department, the other high school camera, we got the car going down Pulaski, following where my pen is going, around 2:52. It then goes into Warnemont here, or excuse me, into the service road here, right?
That's correct.
Comes out at 4:30, a little after 4:30, goes south off of this map, comes back north, and then heads out onto Pulaski, ultimately turning north onto what would be Lake Drive.
That's correct.
The camera we're about to watch is right where my pen is at here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Essentially, what are we about to see?
You're about to see the vehicle traveling north on Lake Drive.
I'm going to play this video at 4:34 a.m. (4:33:56). Where should we be looking, by the way? Can you point to it?
Yes.
All right, you're pointing to the upper right portion,
Yes, sir.
and the vehicle is going to kind of follow where my mouse is going, correct?
Yes, that is Lake Drive. And the headlights are now entering.
Okay. And you're able to see, if I pause it at 4:34:29, it appears to be sort of a dark sedan style vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Off the screen by 4:34:31, right?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to put in Exhibit 11 now. This is going to be the pump house video. This might take some time, Judge, just so the court's aware.
Does the jury need a break to stretch your legs for a few minutes? Let's do that. Let's take a 5-10 minute break. Give him a moment to set this up. Just leave your notebooks on your chair, please. The next videos.
All right, you are watching live coverage of the Maxwell Anderson trial in the death of Sade Robinson, 19-year-old Sade Robinson, killed and dismembered, rather, in April of 2024. This is the first day of testimony. Opening statements were given earlier this morning, and so far we have heard from 7 witnesses, 5 of them members of law enforcement, 1 a government official, former government official in Cudahy, who was superintendent of the water department at the time all of this happened, and also 1 civilian. That was the very first witness, Osiris Terrell. He found the leg in Warnemount Park along the lakeshore on April 2nd of 2024. He and his friend Evan Millies were walking along the shoreline when they discovered the leg and called 911. Again, the court is taking a brief break just to give the jury a chance to stretch its legs. There will be more testimony. They're expected to wrap up a little more than an hour from now for the first day, probably at around 4:30, but we'll stay with that coverage here on Fox Local. And from the Wisconsin Live Desk, we will be on this until 4 o'clock when Fox 6 News at 4 begins. But you can continue to watch any coverage of the trial uninterrupted. The clean stream is available on our Fox 6 News Milwaukee YouTube channel. Going to take a quick break here, and then we'll get you set up to return to testimony again at the trial of Maxwell Anderson at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. We'll do that right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And I'm Fox 6's Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk as we continue coverage of the Maxwell Anderson trial. Day 2, first day of testimony. Opening statements given earlier this morning. We've now heard from 7 different witnesses. In fact, the state is in the middle of examining its 7th witness, and that is a Milwaukee County Sheriff's detective who was talking essentially about the movements of the vehicle that they believe Maxwell Anderson was driving. They say that was a vehicle owned by Sade Robinson, the victim in this case. We're seeing some video, surveillance videos and things that they say are essentially detailing that car driving past the Cudahy Police Department and then ultimately arriving at the Water Department pump house service road right by Lake Michigan, where the gate was smashed, a gate that had been standing for 30 years, according to the former superintendent of the Cudahy Water Department, smashed that night in the middle of the night. And that was just hours before the discovery of a human leg along Lake Michigan that ultimately was determined to be that of Sade Robinson. That individual is currently on the stand. And I'm looking for my notes as I try to find them here. Where did I send those notes? The witness who was on the stand when the court took a break here is Nathan Spittlemeyer. He's a sheriff's detective. Just before that, we heard this afternoon from Milwaukee County Sheriff's Detective Matthew Vandertye. And he was going over the text messages that they obtained from Verizon Wireless for the mobile phone belonging to Sade Robinson. Sade Robinson had Life 360 on her phone, which was, it's an application that allows family and friends to track your whereabouts. It also helped to pinpoint, according to the prosecution, where she was, or at least where her phone was, throughout the night, from starting with the first date that began at the Twisted Fisherman in the Menominee River Valley in Milwaukee on Canal Street, all the way through Dukes on Water, back to Maxwell Anderson's house, and then eventually ending up along the lakefront where the body part, was later discovered. So they talked to him about those messages. One thing we heard from the defense was asking if there was anything in those text messages. It certainly establishes that there was direct contact, communication between Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson just hours before her death. What he pointed out was, is there anything in that communication that suggests any sort of threats or danger? And of course, the detective had to say no, there was nothing about those that were threatening. It seems the defense is trying to point out that these were lighthearted messages that don't indicate someone who was intent on killing. At least that seems to be the intent of that line of questioning. Again, when the court comes back, which should be momentarily, they will continue with Nathan Spittlemeyer. As I said, so far we've heard from 7 witnesses. 5 of them have been members of law enforcement. And if you look at the entire witness list, which is more than 200 names long, the vast majority are members of either police or sheriff's departments in Wisconsin or Illinois, where obviously there's been a huge law enforcement effort in this case. It is mostly going to be police and sheriff's detectives and deputies and officers from local police departments who will be testifying. There are some civilians. As I said, so far we've heard from only one, and that civilian happened to be the man who was walking along the beach and made this gruesome discovery which started this entire investigation. The opening statement started this morning, I believe, just a little before 9 a.m., right around 9 o'clock this morning, and we've been hearing testimony since then. They will go through, the schedule is planned to go through 4:30 each day. And we here, again, at the Wisconsin Live Desk, will keep it here until 4, and then you're going to get Fox 6 News at 4 p.m. on this stream. But if you want to watch the raw stream and keep watching the testimony uninterrupted, you can go to our Fox 6 News Milwaukee YouTube channel. That is going to be there throughout the trial without any additional commentary, no anchor hosting or anything like that. It's just there. It's a raw feed. You can watch that there throughout the duration of this trial, which is expected to last as much as 2 weeks, if not even more. Again, yesterday was all jury selection. 15 members of the jury are now watching this case. 3 will eventually be alternates. 12 women, 3 men who are hearing the testimony in this case. This is just day 1 of the testimony, day 2 of the trial. So a long way to go. And as I said, for this afternoon, we probably have about another hour to go. In terms of what we've learned today that we didn't know before today, if you're just tuning in, we've heard the defense. And we've known all along what the prosecution says happened here, but we're hearing now for the first time from the defense. And a defense attorney, lead defense attorney Tony Cotton, made the statement at the beginning of the day that there are, as he put it, I think he said it was there is a mountain of reasonable doubt. He is saying that while there is a lot of circumstantial evidence, video evidence, digital evidence, things that associate Maxwell Anderson with the whereabouts and the movements of Sade Robinson on this particular night, that there is no murder weapon, that there is no bloody crime scene, that there are key things that are missing that the state is going to have to overcome a pretty high burden of proof to convince all 12 jurors that, in fact, Maxwell Anderson did this. and prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the defense's strategy. They're not raising any additional theories that someone else might have done this, but they don't have to. The state has the burden of proof, and we're going to be hearing throughout the next couple of weeks from experts like Attorney Julius Kim of Kim and Lavoie, who's going to be weighing in and telling us all about the burden the state has here and why it's important that the state be held to that burden to ensure that justice is served. Again, that's coming from a longtime criminal defense attorney, but also someone who was himself once a prosecutor. The judge in this case, Laura Crivello, also a former longtime Milwaukee County prosecutor. The prosecutors in this case are Ian Vance Curzan and Megan Newport, who is the deputy district attorney in Milwaukee County, and the defense attorneys Tony Cotton and Jason Findling. Of course, we know the defendant is Maxwell Anderson, and this is all about the victim in this case, 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Many of her parts of her body have been recovered and are evidence in this case, but there are still pieces of her that are missing and may forever be, including her severed head. Her decapitated head has never been located, and that was also revealed today by the state in opening statements that is one piece they do not have. One additional piece that they revealed today is something that had not been reported, and I have warned you all many times, and I will continue, that some of this stuff is very graphic and sensitive, but this was something that came up in opening statements. Sade Robinson's right breast had been cut off. That has not been recovered. The state did point out in opening statements that while there is no bloody crime scene, that Maxwell Anderson's house did not have blood on the walls, DNA all over the place, anything like that. They did say there were a couple of photographs that we will hear about later in this trial that will be key. Photographs recovered from Maxwell Anderson's phone, if I understand correctly, and that includes one that was a photograph of Sade Robinson lying face down on a couch in his home, and with Maxwell Anderson apparently grabbing that right breast, which ultimately was, as the state says, cut off and disappeared or has not been found. Another photograph of her underwear and pants being removed. The opening statement, in that opening statement, the prosecutor said that there is video that matches or that demonstrates that the underwear and pants being removed in the photograph are the same ones that Sade Robinson was wearing the night of the date that they went on April 1st of 2024. So we're learning new things today, but there is so much more for us to discover. Just a few moments ago, Judge Crivello gave the jury some time to stand up and stretch their legs. These are long days. The jury, we were told, because there are 15, I think we had Aaron Mabin on earlier today. Fox 6's Aaron Mabin joined us in the noon hour to say that there are only 12 seats in the jury box, but they have 3 extra chairs that these jurors are having to sit on. And for a 2-week trial, that's a lot of time in a chair that may not be especially comfortable. They're probably doing some rotation, also trying to give the jurors a little more time to just stretch out and not be overwhelmed by the sitting and all of the note-taking. I'm just checking and referencing here to see where we are. There's still right now a shot of a clock. You can see it right there on the wall showing 3:35 p.m. at the Milwaukee County Courthouse in Laura Crivello's courtroom. So they have not come back. The jury is not back in the room. They're not yet ready to go. But as soon as they are, we will take you back there for the remainder of this afternoon. As I said, there is a list of more than 200 state witnesses. We've heard from 7 so far. Don't expect we're going to hear from 200 witnesses. I don't think that is likely. The state has to list everyone they could potentially call, but that doesn't mean they will. And in fact, if you want to use a comparison, I gave this earlier today, the Waukesha Christmas Parade trial, the tragedy that happened after the Waukesha Christmas Parade involving Darrell Brooks. In that case, the state had listed, again, hundreds of witnesses, but called only, I think it was maybe 40 or 50. Might have been 60. Memory doesn't serve me exactly on the number, but I know it was significantly less than the number of witnesses they had listed. Here, there could be more, there could be less, but it's probably not going to be 200 and something. Now, the defense is going to have witnesses of their own and experts that they're going to bring in as well. Don't expect to hear from Maxwell Anderson himself. We've heard from criminal defense experts who say, first of all, we already know it's pretty rare. It's not often you want to put a defendant on the stand and make them available for cross-examination. And in this case, this isn't one where there is, for instance, maybe a he said, she said over.
We went off the record to take a break, and the witness stepped down. He
Sorry, I'm
approached
listening
me
into
and
something that's happening
he's sitting
here in the-
behind me right now.
in the
Approached
courtroom.
me and indicated that he believed that juror
Okay,
was
they're
his,
still off the record right
was a
now, so
treating
there's some
doctor of
discussion
his.
happening
He
off the
then told me
record,
her name,
but I'm
and I
going
checked
to.
and it is her. So I informed
Are we
defense
hearing that
counsel
right
of
now?
That's the only thing I would add to that, and I don't have anything else regarding that.
And the doctor.
The only thing I want to make sure is if
treated
that's off the
witness-
record, I'm going to bring that down. We don't want to have that going over the air. So there are some discussions happening right now that are not, or are we back on the record there in the courthouse? Sorry, folks, I'm just kind of checking in to make sure. Can we bring this back up? Because we do have, I see the judge on camera now. Okay, we're working to find that out. I'm going to keep it here for the moment. I'm assuming that this is the same stream that. What's that? Okay, I'm assuming this is the stream we would be seeing. Okay, now they've gone back to the camera shot that is just of the top of the flagpole, which means that this is not something we're probably supposed to be carrying, so we're not going to go to that just yet. The question is, where did I just leave off? I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now. But what I will tell you is that when they come back on, obviously, okay, so the FOX6 YouTube channel will have this stream going for a while. We're only going to be here for about another 20 to 25 minutes. And before that interruption, I had a great little line of thinking. I couldn't tell you where I was going with it. But as I said, we've got a long way to go in terms of the number of witnesses that are going to be called and what's going to be discussed. I think we can expect that this is probably going to wrap up before 5 o'clock today, likely by 4:30, and then we'll continue with more testimony tomorrow. The state's going to have this case for a while. It is going to be a long time before this turns over to the defense, not just the balance of this week, but probably all of next week, and this may stretch into even the week after that, which would be the second week of June. So this is going to be going on a little while. We're going to be here every day on Fox Local and here from the Wisconsin Live Desk telling you all about it. I'm going to take a quick break right now, and as soon as the court is ready to go back on the record, we're going to take you back out to the Milwaukee County Courthouse in the trial of Maxwell Anderson. We'll come back after this break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back. Fox 6's Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. It looks like court is back in session at the Milwaukee County Courthouse in the trial of Maxwell Anderson. We're going to take you there right now.
Next clip, that was clip, starts with the number 1. We're just going to go forward. This is clip 2. Same camera, correct?
Correct.
And I have it queued up. The timestamp here is 5:09:49, but really what time would that be?
It would be about 4:31 in the morning.
Okay. Playing from that time. All right, and you see the headlights up here?
Correct.
Where is that vehicle coming from or going to?
That appears to be Warnemont Park and in near the golf course parking lot.
All right, so that would faintly be capturing when the car leaves the service road and heads south towards the golf course, correct?
That's correct.
Down the dead end.
Yes, sir.
And then it returns to Pulaski, and if the other video showed us anything, it's going to drive right by this camera again, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And there it is.
And there's the vehicle traveling, and it's traveling west towards Lake Drive.
All right. Off camera. And by timestamp 11:11 on the video is where I paused it. So what time is this real time, roughly?
It'd be about 5:33 or 4:33 in the morning.
All right. I'm going to move to camera 1. This is video number 3 on this exhibit. What are we looking at here, Detective?
So this is the video that was that I recovered from the pump house. It is facing northeast. Towards the bottom of the video here, you see kind of the sidewalk that goes around the pump house. Off to the left side of the video, over there, that is going to be where the gravel parking lot is. And directly towards the front and center is the end of the parking lot, which is approximately probably like 6 to 8 feet down to beach level. And the tree line to the left on the left side has a couple of small hiking trails that allow you to walk along the bluff and down towards the beach.
Okay, so where my mouse is at right now, is that the general area of where those trails would be to get down towards the waterfront?
Yes.
And when you, obviously you can't see it very well because it's dark here, but beyond that and down by that waterfront, about 100 to 150 yards away from this area, that's where the leg was found, correct?
Correct.
You looked at this camera angle from about what time to what time?
From that 2:50 to 4:45.
Okay, and that's because the videos that we just watched show that car going down towards this area shortly after 2:52, 2:53 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And nothing comes out in that meantime, correct?
Correct.
Is there a similar camera that faces the opposite direction, the southbound direction?
I didn't hear you.
Asked and answered.
I think you can, he's trying to clarify. You can answer it if you're able.
Yes, there's another camera that's on the south side and faces east, capturing the sidewalk in Lake Michigan.
And you watched those video clips as well?
Yes.
All right. Did you notice something on this video camera that you did not notice on the other video camera?
Yes, I noticed headlights along the bluff and a shadow of a person in the tree line.
All right, a human silhouette, more or less?
Yes.
I'm going to cue this video up to 30 minutes and 36 seconds. The timestamp says 3:35 a.m. So this would be about 2:53 a.m. real time?
Correct.
All right. And I'm going to use the zoom feature. That parking slab, if you drive down the Pump House Road, it would actually be a little off camera to the left here, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, but on this clip, what are we going to see?
You're going to see headlights illuminating that left side portion of the bluff that I just pointed to.
Okay. Playing at 30:36. And if you can, I want you to point it out when you see it.
The lights are now coming on towards the left side.
Okay. Very faint, correct?
Correct.
I'm now going to advance the video to 39:16. This would be about 3:02 a.m., is that correct?
That's correct.
Real time. The camera says 3:39:15, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now what are we going to start to see?
You're going to see that human silhouette in between the tree line, and I'll point to where we'll be looking. And it'll be in this area where the lake is behind the trees, so it allows us to see the silhouette from the lights on the pump house with the lake in the background.
I'm going to play this from 39:16 to 40:22. And I want you to point it out, Detective, when you see it.
I can already see it right in the left area, towards the middle. And now walking in between these two trees. And right here again, in between the other two trees.
Does it appear he bends over right there?
Yes, sir. And now the individual, the silhouette, is standing behind the tree and is going to walk back towards the tree line and will no longer be visible.
Paused at 40:21. I'm going to go back and play it just in slight fast forward. Point it out again, please.
The person's walking down into the tree line and should be exposed here, and continues. He'll bend over.
Right there?
Yes, sir. And then now stands back up and is going to walk back into that tree line.
Paused at 40:22, and then the last clip on this one. Advancing the video to 43:16, I'm going to play to 44:52. What are we going to see on this clip?
We're going to see that same silhouette, and it's going to be entering the same area that we saw before, except this time we'll see the silhouette going down towards the beach level and exiting camera.
Playing at 4316. Please point it out, Detective, when you see it.
I can already see a little bit of the disruption as the shadow walks through, and the silhouette's now visible in between the trees. And now the silhouette appears to be hunched over. There are rocks and other things to climb over in that area. The silhouette then moves down and disappears from camera.
I'm going to fast forward slightly briefly.
And right there again, the silhouette is visible down on the rocks / rough terrain that is down towards beach level.
Pause at 44:51. This would be about 3:05 a.m. real time, correct?
Correct.
And after this time, do you see anything else up until about 4:17 a.m.?
I observed nothing else of note until that 4:17.
So that silhouette that descends the bluffs appears, at least from you can see on this video, to stay down there from this time all the way until 4:17.
From what is visible on the camera, yes, that is all that I see.
Playing clip 4. There's 5 total clips. This is clip 4. And I have it queued up to 55 minutes, 22 seconds. What are we going to see on this clip?
We're going to see that same silhouette walking up from the beach level and back into the tree line.
And this would be around that 4:17 a.m. real time, correct?
Correct. And the silhouette is now visible in the area I just pointed to.
Okay. And it appears he's ascending the bluff there?
That's correct.
And now I'm going to fast forward it. So he just came up the bluff.
Correct.
Okay. Do you see him again?
Yes, in that same tree line, the silhouette is again visible and appears to be descending the bluff and the rocks down to the beach level.
This would be about 4:20 a.m. real time?
Yes.
And I'm going to fast forward till the end of this clip. He's out of view now, correct?
Correct.
And that takes us to the end of that clip. And then last but not least, clip 5. We're picking up around, it says 5 o'clock here, but we know that's wrong. This would be about 4:23-ish.
That's correct.
Okay. Going to advance to 4:15. And what are we going to see here? Him come back up the bluff?
Yes, so you'll see the same silhouette ascending the bluff and walking back into that same tree line.
Okay.
Can we be heard at Sidebar real quick?
Sure.
Can you take that down just for a second?
Yep.
Do you want to go in chambers?
All right, it looks like Judge Gravello has called the attorneys into chambers to speak with them momentarily as the trial here continues. Maxwell Anderson on trial for the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Chade Robinson. Here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, we've only got a few minutes left of this testimony. If the judge comes back, looks like they are back, we're going to give you these last few minutes. Then we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, get you ready for Fox 6 News at 4.
Okay, Detective, just briefly, the file titles up here, this one says 5, this is number 5, and then it says Cam 1 Anderson 507. Just to be very clear, those were not the video file titles. When you downloaded them, those were renamed for purposes of court presentation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to play, we are at, according to this clip, 5:04:14. And you indicated, I think, that we're about to see that figure ascend the bluff. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Is this the last time the silhouette appears to come up the bluff?
It is.
Playing at 4:15. Please point out when we see it.
Right there at the bottom of the screen, at the bottom of the bluff, you can start seeing the silhouette walking back up into the trees.
Does it appear he has anything on his back?
I did not observe anything on his back.
I'll go back. So he ascended the bluff that time?
Yes, and I observed the backpack or something appearing to be on his back.
All right. Obviously, you can't.
For 30 minutes of this remaining to go today before they wrap up for the day. Fox 6 News at 4 is coming up momentarily. Remember that we will be back here at the Wisconsin Live Desk on day 3 of this trial, day 2 of testimony tomorrow. I'll be right here at 12:30 to give you a wrap up of what happens tomorrow morning. We'll catch you up to speed and get you ready for testimony here tomorrow afternoon. Don't forget to check into all of our news coverage, Fox 6 News at 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. And we'll see you here tomorrow.
With stories that matter to you, this is Fox 6 News at 4.
Based upon that, I will bind you over for trial.
Now at 4, new charges for a Milwaukee school bus driver accused of sexually assaulting children. Plus,
he cut up her body, tried to get rid of her body parts, and tried to cover it up in any way that he could.
Opening statements begin in the trial of Maxwell Anderson.
And that's our big story at 4. Those opening statements followed by gruesome testimony in the homicide trial.
Prosecutors say Anderson killed and dismembered Sade Robinson before discarding her body parts. His lawyer says the evidence won't prove